Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's the classy DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Classy.
Oh, yeah, classy opponent like BC.
Yeah, I like that.
Classy co-host like DB.
Sometimes they use those, like Freddie Blassie. Like, was Freddie Blassie classy? He was kind of tacky.
I don't know who Freddie Blassie is. Is that a miss on my part?
I don't know. Were you a wrestling guy?
No. Like professional wrestling?
Yes, like wrestling.
Like wrestling?
Yes.
No, I wasn't.
Well,
really.
it's not like my.
Not
favorite.
like Nebraska Omaha wrestling.
No. Do you like that?
I do.
It's my baby.
I like that.
I have a couple of them.
Yeah?
UNOs, yes.
Gotta get at. You gotta represent.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I'm representing the other Nebraska.
I was thinking about hitting. I like that. I was thinking about hitting. I may shoot to Crete this weekend.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What for?
We got an open invite.
Oh, nice.
High school.
Watch a little wrestling?
Yeah.
Not wrestling.
It's gonna be that's wrestling.
Yeah.
It's gonna be that or basketball.
Yeah, those are your options this time of year.
Taking a little jamboree yesterday. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's like.
How much wrestling do you watch? Like, how do you?
I'd say a fair amount.
Like, do you go to, or you watch a lot on TV?
I'd say I'd go to a fair amount.
Yeah. Because I know you watch a lot of the Big Ten stuff on TV.
I'll watch a lot more now that I don't have to be at basketball all the time.
Sure.
Although that's coming back to bite him. He just gets the itch, but he won't admit it. It's fine.
If you're trying to listen to us, apparently we're having some issues on social. I think it's a StreamYard issue. So get to 590 ESPN Omaha or ESPN Tri-Cities. I believe this is a StreamYard issue, but Shane, can you check in with Sasha and make sure?
Glad we didn't say anything eventful.
Well, we're talking about wrestling.
Yeah, that's true.
Wrestling's pretty eventful.
It's very eventful.
Your guy Cody would be mad to hear you say we didn't talk about anything eventful.
Cody was at wrestling in York Saturday.
Yeah.
And he got a picture of my good buddy Mike Jernigan.
Yeah?
And the picture that he took.
Is that different from Coach Jernigan?
No, it's the same person.
Okay.
Yeah, Michael Patrick Jernigan.
I've never heard you call him his first name before.
I never do.
So, okay. Anyway, continue.
So, you know what's funny?
Yeah.
I don't know how many, I don't ever say Mike.
Yeah?
It's not his name. It's not.
Is that like a Michael Jerome Sauter?
Yes. Although sometimes I'll say like MPJ, or sometimes I just say Patrick. Journey is the guy whose locker room looks like a CVS and a Walgreens.
Okay.
He's got powders.
Got all the
colognes,
stuff.
Yes. Shampoo. Yeah. Weird.
I would have gone probably Bath and Body Works there.
No.
Different style stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hygiene stuff, but not.
Not like cologne.
He's not frig. And his cologne, listen, it's not like Joop or Fahrenheit. It's like Polo Red.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like standard.
What's wrong with Polo Red?
It's fine, but it's basic.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
Not like a lure.
Not getting out the Creed Aventus.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I see commercials for it.
My name is Jam. Oh, you said Aventus, not Maximus.
Maximus Decimus Meridius.
Yeah. I saw a funny algorithm stretch. Well, it's inappropriate, but never mind. So somehow on my algorithms, I have there's a stretch there. There's a stretch where like women are complaining about other women.
Okay.
So it's like a spill the tea segment kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And there was this one about this lady this esthetician having an unpleasant experience with a client.
Oh.
And the client tried to film it as if she was putting the esthetician on blast.
But it just looks bad for the client?
Horribly. Listen, I was dry heaving just thinking about it.
Ugh.
And I couldn't turn away. I just wanted to hear the rest of the story.
Not good?
Yeah, not good. That's in a gots-to-go situation. but anywho. Wow. I don't even know why I just told that story.
Some people just like their drama. Some people it's with their estheticians.
It's just I don't know describing the thing. I couldn't probably do that job. No, there was a.
No.
Now listen, there's a lot I would do
Yeah.
for my Christmas money.
Yeah.
That's not one of them.
You like meatloaf? You'd do anything for love, but not that?
I don't know if I would do anything.
You don't strike me like a meatloaf guy.
Like the food?
No, the artist.
No. But I don't mind that song.
Yeah.
That one song greater than that meal.
I hate meatloaf, the food.
And don't come at me with I've never had it done right, and your nanny does this, and your nana does that, and no. Have you ever had smoked meat? No. You start smoking things that aren't originally intended to be smoked, and then it's like the guy that tells me, he needs meat on his grilled cheese. Right? That's not a grilled cheese.
No.
Oh, my smoked meatloaf, man.
Here's my argument.
I could eat almost
anything else.
Smoked. That's not entirely true, though.
You know, my theory about food is I like food that's versatile.
Yes.
That you can prepare a lot of different ways that still taste good. When I say a food's not very good, if there's only one single way you can prepare it and makes it edible. Meatloaf. That's how I feel about turkey.
That's not true.
That's how I feel about turkey.
Okay.
You can't tell me it's not true that I feel that way about turkey.
You can get a lot of protein from meatloaf.
Now listen. I'm going to preface something.
Yeah.
And I still am going to preface it and not mean to be it, even though I say when people do it, they're eventually going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be offensive. But on my algorithm, because this isn't even really your style.
What do you mean?
What I'm about to say.
Oh, okay.
So on my algorithm, I'll show it to you because it was just this morning.
Yeah.
A gentleman, like, I don't know, clay ovened or what is it that happens with tandoori?
Yeah, it's in a clay pot, like a clay oven pot.
Except this was big.
Yeah.
He tandooried a whole buffalo.
An entire buffalo?
An entire buffalo.
That's aggressive.
I was getting the willies. He, like, shoved it in the rack to put it in the oven, and it kind of, like, it looked like jelly.
I don't know about that.
I was like,
I don't know about all that.
Let's go, baby!
But I have had bison, and it's fine, so I imagine it would be legit.
No, it probably tastes good. It's just...
I wonder, he covered the whole thing.
I don't need to see all that with the whole thing
I'm
going
going to show
in.
it to you.
Yeah, that's fine. No, but my point is...
It's pretty interesting.
If there's a food... And it's like, oh, no, you have to do it this specific. You have to do all these things to it this specific way, and then it's good. Yeah. Then that's a bad food. You may have made it taste good, but that's a bad food.
Dude, you're so principled.
Like everybody that tells me, like at Thanksgiving, they're like, oh, no, turkey's great. You just have to do X, Y, Z, A, B, 3, and then you have to do
re, mi,
A, B, C. Yeah, you have to do the Jackson 5 in its entirety while doing a rain dance, and then your turkey will taste good.
What's wrong with that?
And not be, no, I'm Indian. I like rain dances.
Wait, you are?
Other kind, I forgot.
Oh, my Lord, just look at that
thing. What's up? Well, I was...
Oh, y'all ain't never had this before.
I think I almost said something worse. But my point is, if you have to do all that to make a food taste good, maybe the food just doesn't taste good. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm out.
You don't gotta do a whole thing just to get me to eat meatloaf. You know what it could do?
Yeah.
Eat meat, eat bread separately. Just have it be its own thing.
Not a joke. He's got some smoked jalapeno popper meatloaf. Now wait a minute. That's not really meatloaf. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Smoked jalapeno popper meatloaf.
That's what I'm saying.
Although
we're doing too much.
Although a ground beef and a jalapeno, and I imagine there's some cream cheese to it if it's a popper.
Probably.
Those three things sound legit.
Yeah, that's all fine. But then we're not really talking about...
But that doesn't make them good, though.
Yeah, and we're also still not really talking about meatloaf anymore
I just
at
saw
that point.
A recipe for cinnamon rolls that have, like... They're like these rose-looking cinnamon rolls that have bacon in there. I'm like, I would eat all of that separate.
Yeah.
But not together.
That's kind of how I feel about the chili and cinnamon roll thing.
Oh, I love cinnamon rolls. And I like chili.
I do too, but like some people put the chili on the cinnamon roll.
I'm not doing that.
I love chili. I love cinnamon rolls. I'll even eat them at the same meal.
So wait,
but
was there a Nebraska home game this year with chili and cinnamon rolls? Oh, there was. There was.
Absolute.
There was.
Yeah.
I've done that job long enough now where I try to guess what we're having. There have been a couple of.
No, there's some good food up there.
Been a couple of hits.
I appreciate it.
And the lady up there, she's like, "That's my homie." She's like, it's okay. You can leave the bread. I was like, I'm just picking.
She knows you now?
Oh, yeah. She's a gem.
Like the guy with the German Shepherd guarding the gate?
My name is Joe.
No, his name's not Jeff.
No, that dude was a real dog.
That's a Maximus.
Although she wasn't very big.
Yeah.
No, she was a smaller.
Smaller Shepherd?
Yeah. Audio is not working on Facebook.
Yeah, it's a StreamYard issue. We apologize, guys. It is working on the streams on, if you have to listen online, on the radio apps or on their website. So go to 590, their website.
What about YouTube?
No, none of the socials are working. It's a StreamYard issue. So anything that goes out over the internet that doesn't come to the radio station, it's not working right now.
I feel like I should say that to myself really slow.
It's across StreamYard.
It's fine. I'll figure it out.
Not just
I
us.
can hear me. That's all that
It's
matters.
not just an us issue is my point. This is a StreamYard issue as a platform.
Yeah, gotcha.
We got lots of issues. It's okay.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with, speaking of which, issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, like, having jobs where you can be openly criticized a ton.
Yeah,
you know,
it's super fun.
everybody has opinions and stuff, and he remembered a line that I said, and since then I've doubled down on it because I had to tweak it. When I first said it, I was like, man, I try not to value opinions of
People you want to take advice from?
yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes it gets like so nasty. Like I'm like, okay, I would probably listen. I would listen to a criticism, right? Like, okay, is there any truth to it? Like, I'll do that.
You try and sift through it, see if there's anything there.
But then we just got super deep, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if like people sometimes, occasionally, people will dislike you. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I've ever been disliked by somebody I would trade places with.
That's interesting. I've never really thought about it that way. There's definitely, as I'm sure you know, there's definitely people that dislike me.
Oh, me too, I'm sure.
It's kind of funny. This is, get a little deep for a Tuesday morning.
No, let's not.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh. What a wiener.
Oh, I feel you.
This dude is soft as a batch of cookies.
I feel you. I got guys in the stream right now saying, "Come on, my man, Shane, give us some sound."
Are they?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Guys are hating on me.
I don't think that's a personal dislike.
So is Rick vibing?
There's just such a love for the show that they're upset that they don't have audio.
No sound for any radio station using StreamYard. Same thing for 90. Wait. Elijah, why are we talking about other radio shows?
I think you just use an example that's a StreamYard issue, not an us issue.
Oh.
Like their platform is currently broken. Thanks a lot, StreamYard.
All right, Team Elijah.
Appreciate you.
I like the name. Good, strong biblical name.
You big Elijah guy?
Judy. Wayne.
We like Elijah Judy.
I like Elijah Wayne.
Elijah Wayne?
Yeah.
What about Elijah Herbal?
I like Elijah Herbal.
It's our guy in the afternoons.
Yeah, he seems like an overly nice person.
He is. He's a good dude.
Is
I've
he?
hosted with him a few times. I don't know him super well, but I've hosted with him a few times.
Yeah, he seems like he would.
Yeah, he's always been good.
By the way, so Shane, I thought you were joking yesterday about Austin being able to hear me. Well, Austin could hear me.
Yeah, there was no audio issues yesterday with that. He could definitely hear you.
Yeah. Glad I was. See, that's why it pays to be a decent person.
Yeah, because otherwise you could say some out-of-pocket stuff.
Yeah, but I didn't think anything out of pocket, so I didn't have to watch what I said.
Exactly. You don't have to filter yourself if you're not
But now
crazy.
now he knows that I think he's funny.
Austin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I like that part.
You don't want to tell people nice things about themselves?
Sometimes. Sometimes. I'd like to make an announcement that I am staying. How about that? All in.
I didn't realize there was speculation you'd be going.
Man. So it's funny. Friday we got off on this long tangent about like just how things have changed, right? Like what you'd have to do in the sport, just evolution and what you're willing to put up with. And it's like I was talking about Coach Holgerson having to recruit guys on his own campus.
Yep.
And sometimes it's just disappointing that you have to do that, but you have to do what you have to do to survive. So I am glad because there are a lot of mentions in my DMs, a lot of mentions, young Dylan, Raiola, just letting you know he's all in.
I appreciate that.
No, I mean, he could have let it. Listen, some people.
No, I do appreciate it because it was getting annoying. Like every week there was a rumor.
Yeah.
Last week it was Texas A&M. This week it's Miami. Like it's every week, and I don't know where it comes from except for like paranoia and whatever.
Well, I think people will court you.
Sure, yeah, but that doesn't mean you're interested.
Right.
Like there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
Like I could give when I was single, I could give somebody my phone number. That doesn't mean they want my phone number. You know what I mean?
You better take it.
Like
no, here, trust me, just take it.
Or you ever
take it?
You ever
take it?
I'll take it.
Like,
no. Here, you take it.
You ever seen somebody that like writes their number on a receipt because they have a crush on the waitress or something? Like, yeah, the waitress got your phone number. That does not mean the waitress is interested in you.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am positive.
Okay.
She's being nice to you for a tip.
No big deal.
All right, so wait, is that a picture of my man Josh?
So Dylan's in. We don't have to worry about it.
No, yeah, Dylan's in.
Dylan's in. We don't have, I just thought the timing was funny because he was literally on the sidelines with two signees the day before.
Yeah, but I mean,
and listen, it wouldn't be the first time somebody's done something like that, but
right,
it's just
right.
I find it all a little silly.
It just bugs me because I think a lot of it has to do with, and I mean this with all sincerity. I mean, and no real disrespect to people that like aren't either at events or around that basically do their content prep and show prep for message boards. Mm-hmm. Like stuff like this happens.
Yeah, all the time.
Well, hey, I saw a poster and he's like 70% accurate. This is what he said.
Yeah.
And it like forms opinions, right? Mm-hmm. Because what I think people do is they gravitate towards guys and gals that have a fairly high percentage hit rate. Mm-hmm. And without really sourcing, it's just like you kind of so the cool thing is you float it, mm-hmm. and then you can come back and say, well, I knew, or I said, or whatever,
mm-hmm. or and circumstances change.
And it's total. Like I know, you just know that's this message board.
Yeah,
like, that's where that came because the same 12 people will say the same exact thing.
Yeah, they phrase it the exact same way.
Whether it's coaching candidates, like it all basically stems from the same place. Well, and it almost came back to bite them with the Knighton rumors, but yeah, the eagle landed.
But and somebody from on the stream said, these were 24/7 reports or whatever
about 24/7
about Miami, right? But like not everything, and I don't know if this was an article or on a message board or whatever. But like not everything, especially not all the 24/7 sites are as buttoned up as our guys at Husker 24/7. Like you've got certain.
You ever notice people that you never see anything Nebraska related?
Yeah.
Will try to give Nebraska news.
Yeah.
Those are message board people.
Yeah. That's probably not going to be your most accurate information. Now every once in a while you're going to have a hit rate and then people listen to them, but. I don't know. I just thought the whole thing was.
I think my man Josh is a message board guy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The one on the stream here?
Yes.
Josh J?
He said DB isn't going to FSU. Woo. It's these guys.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt? That's
a Christmas thing, isn't it?
I don't know.
This is some dirty water.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
Must have left something at the bottom.
Oh, it's like a mixture?
It doesn't taste like Mike Kirkland.
Doesn't taste like your regular water?
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, don't let him fall down there.
Yeah. I don't know why, my man Dennis, I don't know why he cut his hair off because now it looks like he has a flat top, and he's not really a flat top guy.
Dennis Friancioni?
No, my friend Dennis was here. Dennis came for breakfast.
One time Alabama great?
Great. That's.
I think he had that job for not even a game.
Was that A&M or Bama?
I think it was Bama. It was Bama. He left A&M to go to Bama, and then left.
I wonder what Dennis is doing.
Dennis Francioni?
Yeah.
We'll Google him. It's going to drive you crazy. World's slowest Googler right here.
Well, again, I don't know. Okay. It is bad. It's really bad, especially the way you text.
Well, yeah. If I'm Googling something on my phone, it's way faster.
But there's more surface area. Like you can move. The dexterity should be a lot better because your margin of error is bigger.
All right, but I don't want to have margin of error. It's funny because
I'm looking up something. It's like
I am old.
Dennis hasn't coached since 2015
it's been a while.
when he was at Texas State. Oh yeah, so it was TCU to Bama, then to Texas A&M. That's what it was.
Yeah, Ravi.
He was at Bama for like 15 minutes.
Are you? I think you may be confusing Francione with Price. Wasn't Price the stripper guy?
Yes, and there was also George O'Leary where the same thing happened with the Notre Dame job, I think. The guy that ended up at UCF.
I like George O'Leary.
He had, I think, did he actually ever coach? I don't think he actually coached at Bama. Oh, okay, he did for 2 years. Why did he leave Bama for A&M?
I don't know. But did you know we intentionally didn't talk about it. I told you we weren't going to talk about it, and I pulled it off.
About UCF?
Yes.
Yeah.
How come you didn't push me?
Because I didn't care. Like, it doesn't really move my needle. Although I didn't love his press conference.
It's fine.
Here's the one thing I did wonder about that situation, though, it had nothing to do with Nebraska, is how does he get a job again? Like, how miserable does Jimbo Fisher have to be that guy gets a job before Jimbo Fisher?
Good point. Although I will say this, I think.
Are we just going to not say his name like he didn't say Nebraska?
Double check. I think UCF is unique, though.
It is.
And I don't need my pound of flesh.
I don't care. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't care. What I do think it's fascinating that a guy who's been dramatically more successful, including recently, and has a national championship, can't get a job, but this other dude can. Like, that to me is, like, that's the fascinating part about this story.
You're enamored with Jimbo because he left you at the altar.
No, I'm enamored with Jimbo because he's won a lot.
Hey, this is my man, Sadie. He knows.
Like, he's won a lot.
They do want traffic on their socials. Some of these guys drive me crazy. Crazy. They drive me crazy.
No, Terrence, we're not saying that no one reached out to DR or his people. We're saying not every time somebody reaches out, that means the other party's interested.
Now, that's the guy I'm going to hang out with.
Terrence?
So he may be the guy that I talk to the most that I never hang out with.
That you've never met?
No, I met him.
Oh, you met him. You just don't hang out with him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot in common.
What's that mean? Neither of you like meatloaf?
We both like good barbecue.
The band? I thought you were going to say barbershops, and I was like, it's a little on the nose.
No, he's clean shaven.
It's a little
pretty
on the
much.
nose,
He's pretty
DB.
much clean.
Well, somebody's got to do it.
Wow.
Somebody's got to do
He might do his own.
Maybe. Somebody's got to do the clean shaven, though. It's not like it's just magic.
I see what we're on today again.
What do we do?
You almost made it the first segment without being insulting.
No, I did not. That was never in the cards, DB. We've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on, I think we're back on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
I hope not, because I'm trying to leave.
You're trying to leave. Well, we're still on the radio, so I don't think you can just leave at that point.
I'm dead serious. And Shane's such a gump. He, won't stick up for anybody, especially me, barely himself. But I think this is over.
In my defense, you started it.
All right. Hey, Shane, I'm going to need a second opinion here. Can the streamer, can they hear us yet?
I don't know.
Mike, can you hear me? Hello, Mike Moore. Mike Moore said the commercial has sound.
Mikey Moore?
No, just Mike.
Nebraska great?
No, it's not M-I-K-K.
Oh.
I know you're interested in.
M-I-C-K-E-Y?
No. That's not what I was gonna say.
Mickey Mouse.
Nope, because they wouldn't like you either.
That's you're just like all of Disney doesn't like me? That seems like a lot. Seems aggressive.
So, anyway, can't on YouTube yet.
They are aggressive, by the way.
So I say to Ravi, I sent him the TikTok of the buffalo with tandoori.
Yep.
And so the chef or the preparer of the food is talking. Mm-hmm. So innocently,
Hold on. Full context is necessary here.
Sure.
What language is the preparer of the food talking?
Indian.
Not a language. Not a language.
Dialect?
Not even. No, it's not. India is a country. Indian is a type of food or a type of people.
You're doing too much. Can we just back up?
There is no language called Indian.
So I simply say he's talking about while he's preparing the food.
Mm-hmm. In a language that is not English. I want to make that clear. It's not Indian because that's not a thing.
So I simply say to you.
But it is not English.
Do you know what he's saying?
No, I don't.
And you looked at me. I can't even recreate the way you looked at me. It was not kind.
Has there ever been any indication that A, I know another language, that B, I have adopted any Indian culture whatsoever? I barely like Indian food, DB.
How did you know hemoglobin?
Gulab Jamun? That one?
Yes. That's my point, though.
That I know some Indian foods, so I must know the language.
You're making me look bad.
By accurately describing the situation. I want to make that clear.
So you shoot me this look.
Yep.
And
I mean,
I'm traumatized. I'm like,
the second part makes me look bad, so I have to set the stage.
Shoot. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't.
Did you actually think it was that you had offended me?
The way you looked at me, kinda.
Okay. Okay.
But your clever response was, would you like to tell our listeners what you said to me?
I said I wouldn't watch Black Panther and look at you and say, do you know what they're saying? Which I think is a fair analogy.
Wakanda isn't even a real thing.
They speak real African languages in the movie.
Oh, sorry. I should have known that.
I'm just saying, if you watch with closed captions on like I do.
I can't believe you said that.
Well, I can't believe you asked if I knew what the Indian man was saying in a language you can't even come up with a real language
So
of.
your retort was to go to Black Panther in Wakanda?
I tried to find an analogy that was as offensive as yours was, and I think I nailed it, to be fair.
Well, like the Indian in the cupboard?
Good Lord, Shane.
What? I mean, that's about all, you know? I mean.
Get my nuts.
He came up with the one Indian reference he could think of, and it's not even the right one.
You went to Wakanda,
He didn't.
though. This was a real dude.
They speak real African languages in Black Panther.
Okay. Fine.
Also, those are real people in the movie. It's not like animated.
It's fine.
It's freaking bad.
Do you give me the inkling that you're more connected to your culture than maybe you actually are? Could you see where I got that from?
Maybe.
What'd you tell me on Friday?
Oh.
Did you give me any guidelines?
Yeah.
Did you give me any guidelines?
That you should go to a different Indian restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this was offensive, asking if you understood what the guy was saying.
You know, okay, so it's much closer to me having opinions about restaurants in Omaha than like the place I live and have lived my entire life, than knowing a language.
Wakanda, though, huh?
That Wakanda forever.
Wow.
I mean, those are real.
You can't say that.
Those are real languages in the movie.
This dude
What did
said,
Wyatt say?
Wyatt said no. I do not know what Chan Ho Park is saying. Okay, apparently I was in the wrong. That's fine.
I mean, I wasn't in the right, to be clear. Like,
That's fine.
We both are squarely sitting in the wrong.
Noted, Wyatt. He's out of the family, too. I'll be down about 6 friends by the time this thing's over.
I mean, my mom's Welsh. Like, I don't know Welsh. That's a different language, too. I don't know if you know that. I know they're white, but they don't speak English. Well, some do.
Oh, how are the older guys going to take it?
Even they're part of the English Isles, you know, it's still, they speak Welsh.
It's fine.
It's a whole other language.
It's fine.
It's not just English.
Oh, they speak well?
Welsh.
Oh, Welsh.
Like the grape juice.
This All right. dude said Indian in the cupboard.
Yeah, I don't even know what he's doing. I do not know what he's doing.
No, even she wouldn't say that. that little terror will say anything. Oh, I can't. That's fine.
Unrelated.
I am a little scarred, but I'm going to move on.
Well, listen, we're both going to carry this baggage with us, okay? We're going to have to find a way to carry on.
Shane, my wayward son. Oh, shoot. All right.
My wayward Indian son in the cupboard? Like, what's happening, Shane?
I just want in my defense, if they saw the TikTok, they would be like, oh, I get why you asked.
No.
Apparently Wyatt doesn't.
No, they would not get why you asked. You described the TikTok accurately. An Indian guy was speaking a non-English language, and you looked at the Indian guy and go, do you understand him?
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
My best Tom Brady moment. Incredible. It's fine.
Sorry about that.
It's like when people are like, oh, yeah, I know an Indian guy. Do you know him? No, I don't. I don't hang out in those places.
It's fine.
Okay, so Johnny Pig, if you're available, can you call in, please? Because he said, you were talking about Mike Price, right? And you go, I think he was a stripper guy. And Johnny Pig, our friend, goes, Price recruited me to WSU. He was most certainly a stripper guy. There's a lot of parts of that sentence. I know what all the words mean. I have no idea what he's saying.
Johnny Nats.
So, like, if you are, I can make assumptions, but if you're available, Johnny Pig, please call us, 888-638-4876, because I need to know more about this story. I need to know more about what all of those words mean.
Oh, man. Are you in or out on Chapel Bill?
Chapel Hill?
Chapel Bill.
Chapel Roan?
Belichick.
Oh. I'm kind of in.
What?
Yeah.
See?
Did you hear him on McAfee yesterday?
This is bizarre. I did. The NFL training ground.
I thought it was a super coherent answer, and I don't know if it would work. But I've actually
I do like how he's so seasoned.
Yeah.
He said, if I were to take the job.
Yeah. And then he emphasized, that's a capital I, capital F.
Yep.
If I were to take the job, this is the circumstances, or this is how I would do it, right? And I actually have sort of made an argument for that type of model for a while, where if you go to play college basketball or you go to play college football, right, because there are rules in place that don't allow you to go to your specific league right away, and we don't have training academies like they do in Europe, this is what you have to do. You have to go to college, basically. They should allow you to major in your sport, whatever that looks like, whether it's coaching, whether it's broadcasting, whether it's business management, whether it's becoming an agent. Like, if that's what you're there for, let them, like, major in that.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what Bill Belichick was saying. I kind of loved it. I was like, that makes sense to me. I don't know if it would work. I have no idea if he's got the energy for it, but I think it's a good idea.
Energy and Bill Belichick aren't two things that I would worry about going together. He appears to have plenty of energy.
Well, I would say he appears to have the same amount of energy he's always had, which has not really always struck me as a ton. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are not on any of the streaming platforms right now.
I'm just surprised you guys are back.
You zip it.
What did I say?
I'm surprised you're back, Indian in the cupboard.
What did I do?
Poor Tanner's mortified.
What'd Tanner do? It's all right, Tanner. It's going to be all right.
Oh, my Lord.
That was Kendrick Lamar. I don't know if you know that one.
Wow, really?
Well, it's the song I was singing. It's going to be all right. I didn't know if you were a Kendrick guy.
I'm glad you didn't assume I would know who Kendrick Lamar is.
Yeah, exactly, because people have different interests. You might be like a Drake guy. You don't strike me as a Diddy guy.
You strike me more as a Meatloaf guy.
Oh.
No, we already talked about that. I already knew he wasn't a Meatloaf guy because I listened to him.
Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I don't even recognize what we're doing.
I have a headache.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
You doing all right?
Yeah.
You need like some Tylenol or something? I keep some in my bag.
Stop talking to me like that. It's like you're trying to talk me out of a highly volatile situation.
I'm just trying to be helpful.
Oh, man.
I just want us to be friends again, DB.
Ooh. No. Wakanda, no, you're out. I'm telling you, mine was legit. It came
No,
from good.
I'm not saying it came from a bad place. Like, motives were definitely different. I'll recognize that. But I think.
And I'm trying to process with you, and you just take out the bazooka, and you're like, boom. That was awful.
You know, the worst part is I thought about it too, and I was like, "Yep,
see,
yep, we're gonna do it." You know what I thought about? I was like, "Do I have a funnier reference?"
Yeah, it's great.
And I didn't think I did, so I went for it.
It's great. Which quarterback would you get out of the portal?
You know, maybe Malik Murphy.
Oh, why? Ooh, there's that smell again, Shane.
Yeah, I think it's definitely to do with the heater. It happens every time the heater comes on.
Wow, the delivery. Okay.
It's a pattern recognition thing, DB.
Well, I can't hear, so I didn't
Why
know if
can't
it
you
came on.
hear?
Because I don't know if it came on or not.
Oh, you can't hear that when it comes on? When it pops on? It makes a pretty loud noise.
I can hear it now.
Can you hear me now?
Ugh. This gonna
What is-
exactly. This gonna be a long show.
We're almost a third of the way done.
Yep,
Kim wants to talk to us.
Kim?
I think so. Kim, is that you?
It is me.
What's up, Kim?
Oh, hi. How are things?
Gentlemen, are we out of control here, or what is going on?
Well, you know, we try. I tried to be better, and this is just
I
not
think to
gonna
be
happen.
out of control, you have to be in control at some point, and I'm not sure
I
that.
That is true.
don't even know what's going on. I just feel like I'm just trying to dodge bazookas.
Like
I
Bazooka
just,
Joe?
yeah, I mean, I walk out of Pilates and you guys are out of control. All of my zen is now gone.
Crazy.
Apologize about that. I actually think we bring a lot of zen to people, but maybe not.
Oh, come on, Ravi. You don't really believe that?
Kim, how?
Is that with the straight face?
Yes, he does that a lot, Mr. Wakanda over here. Okay, that's what we're
Okay,
on.
so what language do you assume I speak, DB?
Oh yeah, good point.
You think she's like watching The Godfather 2 and the origin scenes, and she's like, "Oh, Vito, I feel you."
Robbie, that was a horrible accent, Robbie. That was horrible.
I didn't do an accent. I didn't do an accent.
Oh, okay, that makes it even worse.
I didn't do an accent. I promise.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I thought you were trying.
No.
So Kim, how are we feeling about Pop Isaacs? Are we nervous?
No.
I need help.
I am not nervous about Pop Isaacs. I'm really inspired by Jason Green. I've always liked that kid.
Me too.
You know.
So more minutes for for JG.
And for Mason Miller.
Well, I need Mason to start making shots, man.
He had a couple big ones against Kansas, though.
And I said
I
that.
know,
I said that to Ravi, and he goes, "What's the first thing he did when he got in the game?
Turned the ball
her over
immediately.
But you know what? It's like I have this. It's something I'm drawn to these underperforming small forwards.
Wow.
I liked Ronnie Harrell.
I
liked
loved Ronnie.
Mason. I know, and it's like, guys, come on, somebody. I don't know. So yeah,
I do love Jason Green, though, too.
I do too. Okay, and you know what I like about Jason Green? He always seems happy.
He's a good kid. He's a young man now. Like that's his parents.
And that's why, you know, when they're happy
Probably is.
and they look like they appreciate what they're doing, it makes you want to root for them even more. You know.
True. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So, by the way, I'm going to go back and watch the Godfather trilogy because that's what I do every day.
Wow. The walk-off. Thanks, Kim.
Don't forget the meatballs, Kim. Wow. She's made us meatballs before. That's real.
She has.
Yeah, that wasn't offensive at all. That's a real thing that happened.
Why did you? Never mind. I was going to ask why you went to The Godfather, but I get it. Sicilian.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. It's a good movie, too.
Yeah.
Quality. Good cinema.
Anyway.
You doing all right?
More minutes for Jason Green, Wakanda dude.
Well, you know, he's a Miller North guy. So we appreciate Jason Green.
Of course.
I was going to say that's probably why he's a good kid is Miller North, but, you know.
Probably a lot to do with Casey.
You think so?
Yeah.
What about JoJo?
Hello, friend.
His name would be Robert.
Oh. Okay.
Good people.
Yeah, I've never met his parents. I've never met Jason, I don't think. Not just in passing, maybe at Creighton, but
Yeah.
Miller North guys probably has a lot to do with it. I mean, you got me, you got Michael Brunts, you got Jason Green.
Yeah.
It's a good crew.
Just lumping yourself in. You can't self-gloss.
Oh, I would never.
Can I ask you a question about quarterbacks in the portal?
I would love that.
If I'm a coach,
Mhm.
what's the first trait you're looking for outside of physical talent? Given the way these dudes just hop in the portal.
So we've talked about this a lot with other positions, and or just in general what you're looking for out of guys on your team. And I don't know how different it needs to be with quarterback. Like I think competitiveness is a thing I would care a lot about still, just in terms of is that guy willing to do all the things that I need him to do outside of the football field to be useful to the team. Because I do think that's one of the things we wonder about when guys hop around schools is how competitive are they?
Yeah.
Because they're jumping from the way it's perceived sometimes is like, oh, they're just jumping from one situation to another, thinking the grass is always greener or whatever, right? And I think if I know a guy's hyper competitive, I worry about that less. I think competitiveness gets you invested too.
I mean, because the portal has some fellas now.
Yeah,
And not just quarterbacks. I just mean in general.
for sure.
It's got to be I have to be careful because I think with Nebraska, I don't think this. So I'm willing to have this conversation. Like, okay, so why when it's another school?
Are the guys good?
Yeah.
Well, it's the Dion thing from last year, right?
No, but here's the thing, though, that it's about money.
Okay.
Because I don't think with Jamari it's monetary. I don't think with James it's monetary. But it's like when I see a couple guys, a couple really good guys from and I guess each case is different because I look at Georgia and Alabama, especially two guys in particular that I'm thinking, different than who I see in Kentucky. Right? Because I know why Kentucky guys are in the portal.
Sure.
Right? I know why an Auburn guy is in the portal.
Yeah. Kind of dysfunctional situations, didn't win very much.
Well, I mean, your coach is in Lincoln, and
yeah,
number one, and if you're in Auburn, you have a good relationship with a couple guys that are on the team in Lincoln.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
for sure.
But the whole grass greener thing is always interesting because at what point in this deal, especially if we go to contracts, can you say, you know what? I'm paying you. I don't like the return on my investment.
You're
in a guys to go in a situation.
I mean, I think we're already seeing that.
Well, why can't you just fire guys?
That's essentially what's happening.
A little.
It'll get worse once we have contracts. But it depends on how the contracts are structured, right? Because if we have contracts, you'll still have to pay them out. If you're on a 2-year contract, you want to get rid of a guy after a year, you're going to have to pay that second year. And teams will probably be willing to do it, but at least the player will be compensated when he gets fired or let go or whatever, right? Like a NBA contract or whatever. I would say NFL, but most of those guys don't have guaranteed money. So, there is going to be – but I think we're already seeing that. I really do. I mean, a lot of these guys aren't in the portal by choice.
Aren't or are?
Are not. A lot of them are, but there's a lot of guys in the portal that we're told, hey, you're not going to be a fit here. You need to go.
Right.
Especially with the roster limit.
Which is why it's going to be a mess.
100%. Because there's more – even if you would have normally kept a guy, there's going to be guys you have to get rid of because of the roster limits. And so I don't look at it as – I don't know. I don't look at it as there's this big change coming where guys might get fired in the future. I think guys are already getting fired. We just don't put it in those terms.
I just think quarterbacks have to be different because it's like quarterbacks and left and offensive linemen.
So what would you – I said competitive, so what would be the thing you're looking for?
Have they been in any sort of have you overcome?
Have you earned anything?
Yeah, after it not always being great. Because I think that's part of it. These guys get so pigeonholed at such a young age. And if they don't like something, they just leave. Have you ever pushed through anything?
That's fair.
That just seems to be a quarterback thing.
I could see that. especially the guys that are super highly touted, kind of get anointed early.
Yeah.
I could see that. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Will Backus about national college football. He's from CBS Sports here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Will Backus. He covers college football for CBS Sports. Will, what's going on, man?
Oh, not much. I'm always excited to talk about ball with y'all, so thanks for having me on again.
Appreciate it. One of the reasons I like talking to you, Will, when we bring you on is there's always that certain comedic value, but like you get tons of perspective, especially where you're located. So I got to ask you about some contrasting styles, right? We get the Fran Browns that say, hey, listen, if I've got guys on our roster that aren't about being kind of team guys and they're in a guys-to-go situation, no bold, no nothing, see ya. On the other hand, in a similar vein, we got guys like Dillingham say, you know what, like if you show up every day, you do the right thing, like you can stay with us even though you're leaving. If you're coaching and you've got to get ready for 2025, what stance are you taking as a coach to manage guys' decision-making in the portal?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I definitely see where both coaches are coming from, because from Dillingham's perspective, you want to maintain those relationships with players, right? And, if a player says that they're leaving and you kind of take the stance of, all right, well, I'm done with you, you're dead to me, then that can kind of burn bridges, burn relationships. And, recruiting's entirely dependent upon relationships. And money now too, but relationships are still important. And so I get that perspective where he wants to maintain those relationships by saying, you're still allowed around the building, we're still going to support you. And in the days of the portal, there's a chance that, these guys might swing back one day. So you want to keep that door open, especially if it's a really good player. But I also understand guys like Fran Brown who might feel a little bit burned by somebody leaving, in the middle of bowl prep. And I mean, I've seen teams that are preparing for the college football playoff that have guys entering the portal. And some guys that are important for depth, too. And, they're still playing for a lot. And so I also get coaches being upset if you're doing it in the middle of preparing for a big game. I think I might tend to go a little bit more towards the Dillingham side, just because I said maintaining those relationships and making sure that you're keeping in good standing with those players, and not just those players, but players that they know and their family and maybe even their high school coaches that they still talk to. I think it's important to maintain those relationships and be cast in a positive light by those players.
Well, I know there's some awkwardness, and you mentioned it there, of players being, their season still very much being alive, them having a lot to play for. They're playing for national championship potentially and being in the transfer portal. And I understand coaches being upset about that, but what choice do the kids really have if they want to move on? Just based on the timing and the calendar, the way it's set up, like they really don't have an option without wasting a potential chance to play spring ball at their next location. Like, what do the coaches want the guys to do?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic point. Like, the timing just is really awkward because, it's obviously I've seen, I get a lot of the Tennessee perspective just because where I live, and Tennessee's had a couple depth guys into the portal, not guys that are going to start, but guys that have played a decent bit this year. And, I see fans get really upset when that happens. But, yeah, it's like, if you're a depth guy that plays a decent amount of time at Tennessee, you're probably going to get some good interest in the transfer portal. But right now is when you need to take that chance. Like you can't really wait till spring or after spring practice, because right now is when schools are going to be really interested in adding a lot of guys through the portal. There's going to be some movement after the spring, too, when coaches get the chance to evaluate their rosters and really see what they have. But this tends to be the more active time. This tends to be the time where it's a lot better to kind of take that bet on yourself and put yourself out there and try to go somewhere different. And it's just unfortunate that it does kind of end up, right before the playoffs, because, the timing's hard there. So, yeah, I mean, I totally get it from a player's perspective of needing to get it done now. I just know that it's also really hard on coaches and very stressful on coaches, just the way it all lines up.
Let me ask you something, Will, while I've got you, about Tennessee specifically, because I've said this for about a month, and I'm curious to see what you think being so close to it. I felt like with all the hand-wringing and the consternation about what was going on with the playoffs and who was in, who was out, Tennessee was unusually safe for about a month, right? They were kind of just penciled in without having to do much down the stretch, right? It's like, oh, they're safe. Like, because they didn't really have anything at stake, it put them in a better place. Why did you get that sense, or is that just on the outside looking in, that of all the consternation of who's in, who's out, Tennessee was like never a question, was still just NC State and Bama on the resume?
Yeah, I mean, I think after the Georgia loss, there was a little bit of worry, especially with how they lost to Georgia, you know, losing by 14 points in kind of their biggest game of the year. That was a tough spot. But, I mean, then you look up and down the bracket and you see teams like, all right, well, Ohio State lost to Michigan in the season finale. You know, Indiana lost to Ohio State by a lot of points in their biggest game of the year. Penn State lost to Ohio State in their biggest game of the year. And I think once they kind of turned the corner to the end of the year against Vanderbilt, there was just kind of the feeling of, as long as we can beat Vanderbilt, handle our business against Vanderbilt, we're going to be in. Like, there's no question. And at that point, it kind of turned to, okay, are we going to host? You know, like then. So, yeah, I think down the stretch that people around Tennessee felt really comfortable about where they were, and they kind of realized that the Vanderbilt game was pretty much a playing game. Win that, and you're in.
Well, how did you feel? I know you're in SEC country over there, and obviously the conference wasn't thrilled about having fewer teams in the Big Ten and having, you know, the Alabamas of the world left out. Did you think that was appropriate given what you've seen from that conference this year?
I think the committee made the right decision with what they did. You know, it really came down to SMU and Alabama, right? That was kind of the debate over the last at-large spot. And I think it would have been a big mistake to punish SMU for playing in a conference championship game, especially given the way that game went. You know, I mean, SMU erased two 17-point deficits and only lost on a last-second 56-yard field goal. First walk-off field goal in ACC championship game history. Like that, I don't know how you can punish a team for that when they've been in the college football playoff, you know, for a couple months to that point, especially since they won 11 regular season games, went undefeated in their first season in a power conference. I think it would have been a huge mistake to put Alabama in, because then you create a situation where schools just don't care about conference championship games. Like, what's the incentive to play in a conference championship game if you're going to play in an extra game that most of the country does not have to worry about, and then you lose and get knocked out of the college football playoff, even though you've been there for weeks? Like, it just doesn't make sense. I think that would have set a really dangerous standard. And so I understand why the SEC is upset. You know, they like to point to strength of schedule, but if they want to put more teams in the college football playoff, then those teams need to win their games. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like Alabama, don't lose to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma if you want to get in the college football playoff. I don't know why you feel like you're entitled to a spot after losing games like that.
Well, I'm glad you brought up strength of schedule with the SEC, because this is a thing that I feel strongly about. How much of the perception of the SEC strength of schedule is just based on the fact that we thought a lot of those teams were going to be good before the season started? Like, we look at it differently because of that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it definitely feeds itself. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that the SEC isn't a strong conference.
Sure.
It's a very strong conference. But, yeah, it feeds itself, and it is a lot of perception-based, especially since the SEC in recent years just hasn't scheduled a crazy difficult non-conference. I mean, you look at Alabama, their non-conference was Mercer, Western Kentucky, South Florida, and Wisconsin. And, like, yeah, they had to go to Wisconsin, but Wisconsin wasn't good this year. You know, Georgia beat Clemson. Oklahoma beat Tulane. After that, there's just a whole lot of, okay. You know, Texas beat a bad Michigan team, or a Michigan team that's in a down year. So, yeah, like their non-conference just isn't strong. So a lot of that strength of schedule is coming from playing in the SEC. And it is very difficult to play in the SEC, but I don't think that SEC teams should get into the playoff just because they play in the SEC. Like, you've got to win those SEC games to get into the playoff. You know, that's what I was saying with Alabama. Like, Alabama can't lose to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. Ole Miss can't lose to Kentucky and Florida. I think South Carolina, honestly, probably had the strongest case as a 9-3 team, just because 2 of those losses are against Alabama and Ole Miss, 2 ranked teams, and then they went hot down the stretch. But again, they lost 3 games in conference play, didn't make a conference championship. I don't think, unless there's all kinds of top teams that have lost 3 games, I don't think a 3-loss team should be taken seriously as a playoff team unless that 3-loss team wins the conference championship like Clemson, or makes a conference championship and gets their 3rd loss in the conference championship. Otherwise, you just got to win the games that you have. Regardless of how strong your schedule is, what that looks like, you just got to win the games that are put in front of you, and you should see it.
Well, let me ask you something. Okay, so we make you czar for a day, and you have the total luxury of revisionist history. You saw how this year played out. You heard the back and forth. You heard Ward Manuel. You heard Saban. You've heard everybody. If you were czar for a day, would you start with? And I'm going to say this kind of slow. Would you start with going back to divisions, losing the conference championship game, or reestablishing the criteria for seedings?
I think I would probably. I like the kind of pod ideas that different conferences came up with, right? That was kind of like the NFL model. I don't know if I would go so far as having individual conference tournaments, but I think that there needs to be a way to break up the schools so it's not just an 18-team standing. Because scheduling is a nightmare. Like, you had so much variance in how teams scheduled this year that it just created all kinds of problems. Like, you had some really good teams. Like, honestly, I think Florida is a pretty decent team. But Florida's schedule was so impossibly difficult that they were never really in the conversation for anything more than, maybe Billy Napier's going to get fired, and then he's not. And so that was their season. But it was so difficult. Then you have an Ole Miss whose season was, by SEC standards, it's kind of a cakewalk. And there's even more disparity in conferences like the Big 12 and the Big 10, and even the ACC, like SMU. For as much as I really like SMU, glad they're in the playoffs, SMU didn't play a single ranked team on their conference schedule. So, there's a lot of disparity in the scheduling. They need to come up with some sort of format that fixes that. And also just the way that the conference tiebreakers played out down the stretch was just a nightmare. I felt like I had to get a mini PhD to understand what some of these scenarios were, especially in the Big 12 when you're entering the last week and there's 9 teams that have a chance to make it to the Big 12 championship game. I just kind of had to sit back and be like, what are we doing here? I like the chaos. It's kind of fun, but at the same time, it's just kind of a nightmare to pay attention to and cover. So I like a kind of pod format. I like divisions. I like something that separates the schools into a more manageable way, and something that also guarantees that schools are playing a more level kind of schedule. I know it's impossible to have everybody play the same type of schedule, but there needs to be a little bit more unity with the scheduling and a little bit more, fairness with the scheduling. So,
Will, real quick, and this goes back to COVID, so it's not like, he just wants to have been right. But I am curious to get an objective opinion. I was one of those guys that all along never liked the idea of expansion without some sort of conference uniformity. I said, hey, you have to at least decide on the number of conference games before we do this mega thing, right? Because I felt like, and in full disclosure, it stemmed from the Big 12 panicking when it was Baylor and TCU because it wasn't Oklahoma and Texas years ago. So they decided to go to the conference championship game, whatever. Do you feel, is it rational or feasible to think that you could have had some sort of resolution about conference uniformity before you were kicking the can down the road?
I think so. I mean, it's not like these schools just kind of fell in these conferences last, right? And they were just like, oh, well, we got to deal with this now. It wasn't a surprise to them.
Right, and then there was kind of the secret collusion not secret, but We knew that the Big Ten and SEC were talking a year ago about this or before that. So it just seems like I thought the easy answer was, well, they kicked the can down. And I'm kind of thinking of a response I got on social media where I just had to roll my eyes. But I'm like, no, this was plenty doable before we got to this point.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the SEC now, right? The SEC is still panicking over, well, we're going to play 8 games, conference games, or we're going to play 9 conference games. How did you not figure this out?
I couldn't believe Saban had the gall to say that Sunday.
Yeah.
And he said it with a straight face.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand how they didn't think of this before adding Texas and Oklahoma, because, those conversations were going on for probably at least a couple of years before the news broke. And even when the news broke, you didn't have Texas and Oklahoma joining for another year. And so it's like these things, these aren't a surprise. These didn't happen overnight. I think it's realistic to say, these conferences really could have come up with something better before it became such a big issue. And so, I mean, I think there's probably going to be more expansion that happens. I think it's honestly an inevitability. And so I hope that when the next round comes, these conferences have something solid figured out, because at least now they have the experience, right? Not that these conferences haven't expanded before, but this time was just a little bit different with the 12-team college football playoff, transfer portal, NIL, everything, complicating matters a little bit. So hopefully by the next time it rolls around, they've got the experience that they need to sit down and figure it out and come up with a more sustainable, less chaotic model for it.
So, Will, I got a buddy who he sent this message to me this morning, and I think it's interesting because a lot of people don't advocate on the side of the players. So I don't hear this often. But he says, I think the system is kind of rigged to force kids' hands. The window is in a terrible spot for them. Too late to get in and you miss the opportunity, but you still have something to fight for if you're playing any sort of meaningful games. I had to think about that for a second, so I'm going to pose it to somebody smarter than me. Would you move? Is there a way to make it more advantageous is the wrong word, easier for movement without feeling like you're under the gun to make decisions that are ill-informed?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard, right? In an ideal world, I think there would only be one transfer window, and that was after spring practice. So that way, coaches have a really good opportunity to sit down and evaluate, okay, what does our team look like this upcoming season? What do we need? And, I mean, unfortunately, on the business side, who are some players that we can afford to be we can let them go, and it's not too big of a headache. But at the same time, it also gives players the opportunity to really get a sense for where they stand with the team, especially entering a new year, right? Because the December window, we're still in the 2024 season right now. It's kind of harder to evaluate what the future is going to look like right now. When you're talking spring practice, you're preparing for the next season. And so it's a lot easier for players to get a sense to be how do I fit in this team now? Even maybe freshmen that enrolled earlier and came to spring practice, they have a chance to evaluate, is this really what I was promised? Is this what it looks like for me? Or is this what I was told it would look like? Players get a chance to see where they stand. They get a chance to evaluate their future. So in an ideal world, I think there would be one transfer window after the spring. I don't think that's going to happen just because of how much movement tends to happen, and also just the way the calendar shakes out with coaches want to have their roster in place well before spring practice even starts. And so, I think that crunch is going to make it really difficult to have that, especially since, like I said, a lot of these guys want to get players in before spring practice because, that's when they start to do a lot of install for the next year. That's when they get the team kind of ready for everything. And that's when a lot of the groundwork is kind of built. And so, I think the next best solution would maybe be after bowl games, but then you're talking about stretching that into January. And that's also pretty late just with the schedule and the way the calendar works out. So I don't know if there's an ideal solution. I just think it's a really tough situation with the way it is now. And I just kind of hope players have the right people in their ears when they're making these decisions in December, because a lot of guys that end up hopping in the portal, unfortunately, don't find what they're looking for And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's sad, but it definitely does come down to the players to have to kind of make their own really informed decisions. So I hope that they've got the right people that are kind of telling them things.
Yeah.
Well, kind of changing gears on you here a little bit. One of the other big stories kind of floating around college football right now is the possibility that Bill Belichick might be going to North Carolina, or at least there's interest there. Like, how does that strike you? Like, I find it a little hard to imagine, but then I hear him on Pat McAfee yesterday, and I'm like, he's kind of, what he's saying kind of makes sense to me. Like, how does that sit with you?
It sounded like he was already recruiting on the Pat McAfee.
It seemed like a pitch.
Yeah, talking about getting guys to the NFL and those connections. Yeah, it seemed like a very strong recruiting pitch. I mean, look, I've kind of made it my stance to try to never make strong takes about a coaching hire because there's just so much variability with them. Like, it's so hard to say how a guy's going to do. That being said, Bill Belichick is an incredible coach, obviously. You don't need me to tell you that. He's done amazing things in his career. I do not see the vision here. And here's why. He's 72 years old. You just fired 73-year-old Mac Brown. When you're hiring for a college football program, you should be hiring for the future. Like, you're not hiring because, especially at a school like North Carolina, which maybe doesn't have quite they've got a lot of resources, but maybe not quite the resources like a top-end SEC or Big Ten school. You're hiring for the future, not because you think a coach is going to come in right now and immediately turn things overnight, right? You want to hire a guy that's going to build a program that's going to be able to give you consistent, improving seasons. And I'm not saying Bill Belichick can't do that, but I just think it's hard to ask a 72-year-old coach who has never spent any time in college to come into what college is now and immediately hit the ground running and be a home run hire.
So that's the difference between he and Mac Brown, right? Mac has experience, even though age is similar.
Yeah, and even then, I think you could kind of tell that the game was starting to get past Mac Brown a little bit, just because he reached that threshold where, he came up and he had his prime success when college football was an entirely different animal. And so with a lot of the modern changes, I just don't know if he acclimated super well. Like, you look at North Carolina's recruiting.
He got off to such a good start, though.
Yeah, he did get off to a great start, and that's kind of my worry with Bill Belichick, is that maybe he's going to come out and immediately make a huge splash, but then, I don't know if he's got the background necessary and the experience necessary to kind of build the foundation that you need to have that sustained success in college. And I know he said a lot of the right things on the Pat McAfee show. He's very clearly spent time studying college football. He's very clearly spent time catching himself up to it. But it's one thing to have an 1,000-foot view of it, and then it's another thing to get in there. I don't think Belichick at 72 years old knows the mental tax that it's going to take to constantly text 17 and 18-year-olds to make sure that they're still interested in your school. This isn't the NFL where, they're all kind of like adult professionals. We're talking about high school recruiting, where even if a guy's committed to you, you got to reach out to him every single day to make sure that he's still committed, make sure that he's not visiting somewhere else, make sure that another school didn't come in with some crazy NIL offer. I think that's going to be a really difficult adjustment for him. Even if he has the frame of mind where he's studied up, he knows the rules, he's clearly very informed, very successful coach. That's just difficult for someone to handle, and especially I hate to say age is a concern, but I think it is at this point, because you've seen guys like Nick Saban, who he was still in the prime of his career, fresh off a college football playoff year, and he was like, it's become too much for me. I can't keep up with this anymore. So, yeah, I think it would be an interesting hire. He could be successful. I just don't think it's the right hire for a school like North Carolina to make.
That's Will Backus from CBS Sports. Will, we appreciate the time. As always, talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're not really live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Still working through a StreamYard issue. We apologize for the inconvenience. You can catch us. What's up?
Said you're up.
We're up on StreamYard now?
I don't know. Well,
why would you say that then? That's not.
Damon was wondering if he was asking me if we was on.
That's not
No,
helpful at all.
I was talking to. I shouldn't use his real name, even though I know his real name. I was talking to Stank, and he's on iHeart.
Yeah, the apps that are coming through, whether it's 590 or iHeart.
Now, I don't understand what – this is way above my pay grade, but this is what Lance said.
Mm-hmm.
Lance said is this web stream doesn't match the YouTube stream, so when I hear y'all and it intrigues me, I look up and no one is talking. But he can hear us, so I don't know how he's doing it either.
I think
he may have comboed.
I think he's trying to sync them like an audio app.
Oh, yeah.
Like people do with your radio call and the TV.
Oh, and broadcast, yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's trying to sync the video, but they do come through at different speeds.
Hey, shout out to the Husker Radio Sports Network, too.
Yeah?
They're already in New York looking at the setup.
Oh, yeah, you sent me that picture.
Is that not incredible?
Yeah. Good on them. Getting after it.
That's spectacular.
Prepped and ready to go.
Well, they just there's a definite level of excellence. It's not. They do not mess around.
Who else doesn't mess around? You know this. You work with them. Nebraska Public Media. Their sports brings you live coverage of college women's basketball. See all the action when Chattanooga meets the Huskers at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Watch Nebraska women's basketball on Sunday, December 15th at noon Central on Nebraska Public Media.
See, that's totally not playing to our strengths. That's definitely something I should be doing.
Okay.
Makes no sense.
You want them?
It's fine. I'm just saying, like.
You love Nebraska Public Media.
I do. Oh, those are
your guys.
Fantastic.
Putney, the whole crew over there?
Yeah, Gavin Felix, and that's my man Mick.
Yeah.
Their whole crew. I know you're going to be like, oh, it's everybody that works with you. You have to end up babysitting you. But the way that they can, like, get me dressed and do the mics and makes
there's a lot going on.
I'm a big I fight the IFB guy.
Yeah.
Not the FBI, but the IFB, because I don't always love things in my ear. I have enough problems with things in my head.
Yeah.
And they really manage the personality. It's very nice. They calm me down through my earpiece.
It's a little tricky. So I can't imagine
it's hard. It's hard. I'm just telling you, it's not easy.
I can't imagine trying to have somebody talk to me while I'm talking.
Yeah, it's
that sounds like a nightmare.
It'd be crazy. It's easy. I do it every day.
Oh, because you always hear voices.
Yes. Yes. It's the only reason why I just don't say whatever I'm thinking.
Or whatever the voices are telling you?
Yeah, I tried that once this morning, and you looked at me like I was some wayward stranger that asked for your left eye.
Let's not go down that road again.
The intrusive thoughts. Sometimes they win.
Zip it, Shane.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know
I actually think Belichick may have an advantage because he understands the transactional side of business.
Yeah, I really don't know what to make of it, honestly. I like his outlook. I don't know how he would. I think there's probably a way he could set it up that would work for him. I just don't know how long he wants to do it either. Like, is he going to be there for 5 to 8 years?
I don't know.
Or is it enough for North Carolina to be like, hey, we're going to have 3-4 good years. We're going to be happy.
Dude, he hasn't had a girlfriend under 40 in years. He has to have some sort of competitive.
What?
He has to have some sort of competitive stamina.
Sure. I understand that.
Right?
Just
because he talks like a curmudgeon doesn't mean he's not about. He wears white stitched jeans.
I do think his personality publicly and what he's like kind of give a false perception. Because he does seem like a cranky, old, lack of energy man, right? Like he seems like a grandpa.
Have you seen the documentaries that are coming up where you'll hear former Patriots players talk about this doc that's coming up? And Slayton, the all special teams world player, tells these stories of how Belichick just eats Brady alive.
Oh yeah.
He talks to him like he's a stranger.
Just wears him out.
Yeah. I still think he has. I think he has that in him. I mean, to be
probably.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. I do kind of agree with Will in the sense that if I'm a school, and this is maybe unrealistic in today's day and age, and maybe that's the point, is if I'm a school, I'd like to hire a guy that I'm like, hey, I could see you being here 10 years from now. That's ideal, right? You don't want to have to continually hire coaches, but maybe that's just not what college football is anymore. Maybe college football is just in a place where you look at it and you go, hey, if we can get a nice 3-4 year run out of a guy, that's worth it. We'll figure that.
But don't you think that's how it works? I think ADs think like that. I think coaches think like that.
In like 3 to 4 year segments?
I think they think in 4-year increments. And we're going to talk to Schaefer about this because he's one of those guys, and there's a couple of them in the media that I've been listening to over the last handful of years that is basically saying, get while the getting's good. He just had the free piece that came up day before yesterday, where he's like, look, man, who cares about red shirts? Just play the kids. You're not going to keep them anyway.
Yeah.
Just play them, right? So if, like, let's say that premise is true, I think that it wouldn't surprise me if that's how coaches are thinking too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think coaches for sure do think in sort of 3 to 4 year segments. But if I'm an AD hiring a coach, I would be thinking longer term than that.
I'm with you because I think Coach Rule thinks he may outlast his AD, but
I think Coach Rule thinks he's going to outlast everybody.
So my point in saying that is it's not a Rule versus Damon thing.
No,
it's
a personality thing.
Yeah, Coach Rule doesn't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
and maybe Damon doesn't either, but we don't,
but that's the normal shelf life for ADs.
Yeah, right. But if I'm an AD also, I mean, and again, I'm willing to acknowledge that maybe I'm thinking about this in an antiquated way of like ADs don't stay at a school for 10, 15, 20 years. Coaches don't stay at a school for 10, 15, 20 years anymore. And so hiring a guy that is going to win right away and get you to your next spot maybe makes more sense than hiring a guy you think is going to be here for a decade.
No, trust me. This says way more about the aforementioned people than it does about me. But I just talked to two what I would call – I'm just fortunate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good friends in my former life. I would talk to two donors of substance yesterday on a humbug. One was about New York. One was about another vision for something in a JV program. And both said that between Saturday and Sunday morning, they got the calls, talking with the athletic department, have these setups with the brass and the athletic department. And and one in particular was like, it's interesting because this isn't just football specific. This is about the vision for the athletic department going forward. That interests me. So next Tuesday we are, right? So I'm thinking that tells me that they're not sitting pat. They're thinking ahead.
Right.
Playing the long game already.
Sure.
Like, you have to have people like that and still know that, man, this may not work out for me in 2 years. But right now, this is how I'm going to think. That's why I like Dannon's style. Right? Just inventing revenue streams and being proactive and making sure. Because one of the guys that I was talking to when he got called, he was like, oh, this is interesting. Because he's involved, but he's removed because he's not a Mike. It's not important to him to be in the day-to-day. He's just really good-natured and
kind of lets people do their jobs and lets the day-to-day play out the way it needs to on its own.
Yeah, so even he was a little caught off guard that they were being proactive, and nothing catches this guy off guard. Trust me when I tell you that. Now, he could have just been playing dumb for me, but there's no reason. There's no incentive.
What's the bonus?
I mean, we're having a 30-minute count. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like that lets me know that they're trying to at least play the long game in the short term, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. I just think it probably depends on the AD and their temperament and things like that. But we talk about this in the NFL all the time, is a lot of GMs will make a decision to save their job.
No, yeah, we talked. Yep.
Right.
I'm with you.
And so I think there's going to be a tendency in today's college football and college basketball for ADs. They're going to have to fight against that, right? What keeps my job today versus what makes my job better in the athletic department better
if you're
tomorrow.
a coach, are you playing the quick burn?
I'm absolutely not, but that's not my style. But I understand
the temperament.
I understand why people would.
I got you.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, reminding you, keep your eyes focused and straight ahead. If you're driving into work this morning, the driver has one job to do. That is to drive. This message brought to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office. A couple comments on the YouTube, which I got to say, I know you guys can't hear us right now. Maybe you're listening on an app or something as well and just watching online. I appreciate you guys sitting through as we're having some issues with StreamYard this morning and still commenting on the show, even though your normal means of listening is not available to you. Mike says, do we think Nebraska would follow suit with Stanford and hire a football GM? Because that's not exactly Sean Patton's job, right?
Kind of, though. Patton's a stud.
Yeah. But
I really – so Patton's a guy –
but he does a lot besides like just on-field football stuff,
He
right?
understands numbers.
Yeah.
He's very good forecasting.
I struck him more as a sort of business model-y type guy.
I would say that.
Is that fair?
But he does understand personnel.
For sure.
Right? Like, he helped him – like, Patton's a dude. Patton would probably –
like roster management kind
of? Patton would probably be in the top 4 or 5 of guys I would pick to hang out with for a day.
Well, and we talked to him in the spring.
Yeah, we're gonna get him. So during the bye week, never mind. But like that's a guy you just go spend time with.
Yeah,
you just do.
He's incredibly bright, really thoughtful guy. The only conversation I've had with him is obviously on air here.
He's incredible.
But was super impressed. I love that Rule made him available. But I do kind of understand what Mike's asking in the sense of
I don't
like
know
a football
because,
personnel guy.
So here's the difference, and Mike's question is legit, but you're talking to and about guys that have a high evaluation skill set.
Yeah. And honestly, the way the staff is set up, I sort of think that guy is just Rule.
Is in there already.
It's just Coach Rule. Like that's just kind of what it is.
I don't know about that so much.
You don't think so?
I don't know. You said it so fast I didn't have time to like process it.
Well, I'll kind of describe what I mean here.
Maybe.
I think the coaches that take on the CEO role, which I think is more common now than the other, of being really involved in one side of the ball, I think those guys are essentially acting the way we think a GM would. They're dealing with roster management, player acquisition, all that kind of stuff. Whereas before we looked at a head coach as very football hands-on, that's not typically what we see anymore.
Yeah.
Now they're more hands-on than an NFL GM for sure. But I
don't know, NFL GM.
I mean, in terms of on-field stuff, like you're not going to see an NFL GM on-field really, unless it's like John Lynch every once in a while. But
it's the last time I'll say you're right today.
But I think if you've got strong coordinators and you're acting as a head coach in sort of that CEO mold, I think that's what a lot of us are talking about with a GM role. That's how it comes off to me, at least.
So you remember early in the show where I was like, I was just talking about conversations over the last handful of days, and I was like, I don't know if anybody that like actually dislikes me, I would trade places with.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that critics, not necessarily just fans, that critics are so critical of coaches, knowing that this may very well be? And I got this last night on the phone, so I'm not pawning this off as my own. Remember I told you about donors of substance and talking to Dan, and he's like, DB, the job of a head football coach heading into 2025, and this is considering what I do, not me, but him, may very well, coaching big-time collegiate athletics may be the toughest job going right now. Fair or foul?
I would buy that.
Okay. Are you surprised that people that cannot do that job or know one iota about that job are as vocal and critical as they are? Probably not, right?
I mean, I'm not surprised because that's sort of the nature of people. But I also don't know that we appreciate how difficult the job has become.
It is.
Because I think we still think of it as, oh, you're just coaching a game.
We're just so matter of fact in our solutions.
And we're kind of flippant about what the job actually is.
No.
Right? Because you're really, I mean, let's break this down to its actually most difficult parts. First and foremost, you're maintaining 100 relationships.
Greater than.
Right. Well, because you got recruits, you got more people in the building for Nebraska right now.
Your staff.
You got your staff as well. So let's call it 200 at any given time.
Safe.
Let's call it 200 relationships that you have to know those people well.
Most people can't manage their household.
Accurate. Which is a thing Dion said, but he wasn't wrong.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, when
Dion.
Of course you are.
I told you that.
Yeah, I know.
Why is it of course?
Because he grew up in that era.
Oh.
Big Dion guy.
Yeah.
You know?
You be you.
You like defensive backs a lot?
Yep, hemoglobin.
I
I like DBs.
I know you're.
I like DBs.
I know you're a big Florida State guy, so that makes sense.
Big 21 guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we underestimate what the job is. You've got 200 people minimum that you have to maintain, not just working relationships, not just acquaintance relationships. You have to really know these people and really care about these people in order to get them to do what you need them to do, and in order for that organization to run well. Mm-hmm. That is the first thing that's incredibly hard. I would have a hard time remembering 200 people's names that I worked with, just their names, and know nothing else about them. That's incredibly challenging. Number two, you are running a multi-million-dollar organization. Full stop. Nebraska football, any major college football program, is a multi-million-dollar business. That's challenge. So you're a CEO of a multi-million-dollar business. Mm-hmm. Also really challenging in and of itself. You're also have to be an expert in football still. Still have to be a football expert, which most of us are not. So that's three things that most of us cannot do that are really, really challenging. Mm. I haven't even gotten to recruiting. I haven't gotten to staff retention. I haven't gotten to NIL. I haven't gotten to the transfer portal.
But we sure are hypercritical, though.
We are. We are hypercritical. And that is sort of just who we are now as a society. We're pretty hypercritical. I mean, we get it all the time, and it's not even in the same neighborhood. Like most people, you know this for a fact, most people cannot get on the air, no matter how good or bad you think we are, most people cannot get on the air and speak for 3 hours a day. That's not a thing most people are capable of. It's just not. But people are hypercritical of us, and that's fine. We're in the opinions business. People are going to have opinions about us. But that's just kind of and this is a much easier job than being a head college football coach. There's just things that just because we can't do them.
It was weird, though, that Friday night, like, those parallels were made.
Really?
Yeah. The ability to do the
It's a very public job, both of them.
And I said to him, I'm like, give me your staff.
It's just you, me, and Shane out here.
I was like, give me your staff. He's like, oh, really? So then it was on and cracking after that, but still, like,
He can,
but that's one competitor talking to another.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about a handful of pressers versus every day.
Yeah. 100%. Also, he could keep the staff. I'll take the salary, though, if that's cool. If you want to.
Selfish.
Telling you, man.
Like, if you want to make that, if you're making a trade for something, I'm picking salary over staff.
I have such
That's
a
fine.
low maintenance outcome lifestyle. It wouldn't take much.
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't even like. I would give it away.
Yeah.
I know I would give it away.
I wouldn't need all of it, but if I'm trading,
I give away what I don't have. I'd be like, oh, here.
I'm trading salary before staff. That's all I'm saying.
I'm meeting a kid tomorrow after school.
But no, it doesn't.
I don't even know I get roped into that, but whatever.
It doesn't surprise me that people are that critical. I do think.
Are you buying that in 2025? The most difficult jobs.
I mean, how literally do you want me to take that? Because
I don't know. You don't want to go work on an oil rig, I'm guessing.
no, and I don't want to. Like, I think it's harder to be a heart surgeon, probably. Like things like that.
Do you?
Than a head football coach. Nobody's dying if you're bad at football.
Yeah, but people kind of die every day.
I'm just saying. I think being a heart surgeon is pretty harder than being a football coach.
So the skill set may be more finite, and the outcomes may be larger. I don't know if that makes it more difficult.
Though when you do,
I would say it's more difficult.
though when you do it,
If that's what you trained for?
I mean, that's what college football coaches have been trained for, too.
So here's the difference. I'll stand on this.
All right.
Because I think you're dead wrong. The thing about being a heart surgeon is you know what you're getting into all the time. You may have varying
Most of the time,
degrees
but yeah.
of slight difficulty, but the routine is the same.
Okay.
That is not the way it is as a head coach.
Maybe.
And you have significantly more variables.
Maybe heart surgeon's a bad example. I think there are versions of whether it's
Yeah.
neurosurgeon, whatever. I think there are versions of that job.
No, there's more finite skill sets, no question.
that are more difficult. I think it's like when you're talking about really serious jobs, I think they're more difficult.
I don't know. You think a neurosurgeon could go to school for 8 years and figure out how to do surgery versus what it's like to evaluate personalities? Which one do you think's more difficult?
I think they're both very difficult in very different ways.
Okay.
I think you have to have you have to have a specific skill set to do either. I think. I mean, there's a lot of people. There's no amount of training you can do.
If you were equipped,
Yeah.
which one would you pick to do?
Oh, deal with people.
You would make a choice
I would. Yeah.
to deal with people
100%.
than to perform operations.
Me? Yes. 100%. That's just me, though. Maybe you're different.
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me?
You're not even that nice.
That's why it's easy to deal with people. I don't have to worry about being nice.
Fudge.
Why do you think I find it so easy, DB? I'm not worried about them liking me. We've got Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7 coming up next. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Mike Schaefer of Husker 24/7. Schaefer, what's going on, man?
Uh-oh.
Do we have Schaefer? Is this part of our StreamYard issue, Shane?
Hey, Shave, see if you're on mute. Buttons.
I'll just give him a call.
Yeah, I think it's a StreamYard issue.
Ah, poop.
That is not shocking considering what we dealt with this morning, but that's okay. Travis does bring up a good point.
Travis who? Travis R or Travis S?
S.
Okay.
He says any sort of like clinical psychologist that has to deal with people, that's a pretty tough job. I don't know if or like child psychologists, and you're dealing with childhood trauma, stuff like that. Like those are rough jobs.
Yeah, and I'm talking with somebody who spends a lot of time in surgeries with heart patients, and I would disagree that you know what you were getting into with heart surgery going in there. And I said, it's not that you know more. It's not you. It's my point is you know more, not that you know in general.
Yeah,
right?
I understand there's a ton of variability in what you're asked to do as a head football coach.
I don't even see how it's not.
I do disagree with your premise that the difficulty doesn't increase how hard the job is. Like the outcomes don't increase.
Yeah,
how
I
hard
just
the
don't
job
think
is.
consequences determine degree of difficulty.
I think they're a factor. I'm not saying they're the only factor, but I do think it's a huge factor.
Maybe.
We've got Mike Schaefer now, I believe, on the phone from Husker 24/7. Schaefer, what's going on, man?
Well, now I wasted that shower for no reason.
What'd you do? What'd you shampoo the beard?
No, I just wanted to look presentable for your stream, viewers. And instead, I could have just been my schlubby usual self here on the radio.
Our olfactory nerves don't work through the stream, Shafe, so you could always trick me.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I wasn't planning on going outside today anyways. I don't think I can get too far away from, portal season here. But I guess I'm clean, so I got that.
Are you getting any snow in Beatrice?
Well, I live in northwest Kansas City, thank you very much. But no, there's no snow down here. Just the sun has come out a little behind the clouds. And,
we got none of that. Look at this.
It just seems like it's going to be a nice, 45, 50-degree day over here.
Really? We have flurries and it's overcast.
That's because he's almost in the South.
Closer to the equator, Damon.
So, yeah, according to Ravi, that's where I'm from too, basically. It's that. Never mind. Never mind. Ravi was just doing his best David Duke impersonation this morning.
Whoa, easy. Easy. Schaefer,
Wow.
if you were to show me a video of people that sort of look like me that were not speaking English, would you assume I knew what they were saying?
Oh.
No, generally not.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just wondering.
Whatever.
It's a total hypothetical situation and definitely not something that happened on air this morning.
No.
Well,
Hey, fortunate to be here, Shay. Fortunate to be here. So, anywho, Shay, I was telling Ravi, because, obviously I read your stuff, and we got into this spirited conversation about redshirting, and if you're coaching, do you get what you can get while the getting's good, right? If you're a player, do you get while the getting's good? If you're a coach, hey, short shelf life, I got to maximize. And so we got into this kind of this mindset. But for you, kind of your premise was, why redshirt anymore? Which I wouldn't call it a hot take, but, I mean, if coaches start to think like that, it could get interesting. You could get young in a hurry.
Well, yeah, and it's not that I don't think there's a value in redshirting. It's that I just think percentage-wise, you're trying to bank on a year that you're unlikely to actually have in your favor. So if you're Matt Rule and you're looking back on it, I'm guessing you'd rather have played Riley Van Poppel all of 2024 because there's no guarantee that Riley Van Poppel is going to be here in 2028, so or 2027. So to me, and same with James Williams the year before, and it's not that these guys would have come in and wrecked shop and won a game by themselves and et cetera, but it's more the mindset that you have to probably derive as much value from every player every season. It's just like a total different mindset. I have a tough time believing that you can be geared towards being a developmental program in the way that college football has now changed. Like you definitely need to be able to develop, and you want to try to keep players for as long as you can. But I don't think you have the luxury of, well, we'll throw a red shirt on this guy. We'll see what he looks like at the end of his red shirt, freshman red shirt season. We'll see what he looks like that next year, and then we'll be able to make a decision. I just don't think you have that anymore. I think, it's imperative to play a guy like Carter Nelson early, because if you would have redshirted him, who knows what happens, or if you're even going to use that year on the back end. So to me, it just makes sense to try to derive the value and play these players as early as you're capable of doing so. Obviously, some players are going to redshirt because not everybody's going to be able to get in for 5 games. Some players are going to redshirt because of medical reasons. But I just don't think it makes sense going into the year to be like, well, that guy needs a year, so we're going to just go ahead and leave him on the bench.
Schaefer, can I make the argument to you that while you're...
He always asks that. Tell him no. Tell him no. You always say, can you make it? Tell him no.
Well, if the argument is no, then say no.
I like to think that I'm the sort of person that you can always make an argument to, whether I'm going to agree with it or not.
So
I
start
don't
with
know,
that
but
supposition.
I enjoy listening to people, giving their explanation or their opinion. So that's Ravi, you're always able to make an argument to me. Just know that you have carte blanche in that department.
Could I get you to understand the argument that you are giving something up in the short term, and it may not be in your interest as a coach with that particular player, but you do believe it's in the best interest of the player, and long term you think that will work out the best for you. Is that a viable argument in your mind?
It's viable, but is going to be situationally dependent. Would it have been better for Carter Nelson to redshirt and only play 4 games this year? Probably. Is it better for Carter Nelson that he was able to get some experience and played in some of these games, was in on a critical down, even though it didn't work? Probably. So it kind of, I think you can push the conversation either direction. And I think there's going to be individual cases where a guy just clearly is not going to be able to help you. and you have to make that determination. But if you're on the fence, I guess it's sort of how I view it, I would always lean towards just playing them and not using the red shirt.
Sure, and I totally understand that, but let's use Riley Van Poppel for an example, because that's a guy who could have helped you, right? But a guy that obviously they thought it would be better for him long term to redshirt this year, that he would end up being a better football player. My argument would be that if you do that more often than not, in the long term, even though let's say you might lose Riley Van Poppel, in the long term that's going to be better for you and your program.
I think that argument will struggle to survive throughout where college football is headed. I mean, I think, it may be a great service to the player, but ultimately, and I'm not trying to be a jerk here when I say it, but Nebraska fans won't care about James Williams' extra year.
So here's where I'd push back. So, I don't have an example from football, but there was a sense for a while that if you were a really good pitcher, you would go to Vanderbilt because they were going to take care of your arm, where that was not the case at a lot of college places, that they would kind of overuse you / abuse you in those situations. And Vanderbilt ended up getting better players and better pitchers because they were viewed that way. It's a very long-term play, I get that. But it's not without any sort of case study.
But it also requires years and years of, building that reputation. And while Matt Rule has a reputation of being a builder and a developer, I don't think that I'm stopping traffic when I'm saying that he has to also develop the reputation now of being a winner at Nebraska. He doesn't have that.
Well, yeah, the wins have to come, right? That's the given.
Right.
None of it works unless the wins come. Like, not shirting the guys doesn't work if the wins don't come either.
And so it's, everything's going to be dependent on trying to derive the most value. Like, there's just, we've been going towards this route anyways, but there's not going to be an overwhelming amount of patience for coaches. There's not going to be an overwhelming amount of patience for players or portal players. And I'm not saying that every situation just has to be the same, but I just don't think you're going to generate this reputational value out of it. I really don't. I mean, it's one, I don't know that you're going to win enough to be able to sell people like, oh, this is a plan that's going to work the best for you because Nebraska is doing it, and they're doing it at such a high level that it's working for all of these different players. I just don't, like, how many years do we think we have to talk about that happening for it to really, because I'm thinking we're going to need like 5-6 years for players to actually be examples of it for Matt Rule.
Hey, so I talked to Hap yesterday, and I think I liked your example. You actually, I think, used a pretty good example for this, because I think as I talked to him, you used Caleb. And I said to him, I think that's a spot on. It's an uncannily a really good example, because that's a guy that I think they think they're going to get multi-year starter out of. Wasn't ready then, but close to keep there. He was okay with that philosophy. To your point, you're saying, well, what's the difference between Keona Davis and Van Poppel? Nebraska would say, Van Pop's going to be a multi-year starter. I want to save the year. I think he's going to stay. You played Keona Davis with maybe thinking you could do the same thing to him next year, and he still left anyway. So how important is it, Schaefer, in your philosophy to make sure, or to try to make as sure as possible, that you know the type of personality that you're dealing with?
I mean, I think that's the critical thing, and that's the part that makes it hard to just, one size doesn't ever fit all.
The discussion is fast. Like, you're not crazy, but you do have to know.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well,
I'm going to put that. I'm going to put that on my resume. Not that I'm applying for jobs, but if I was.
Oh, it's easy to use Carter Nelson. Like, Carter Nelson, his family can say that now, but what if they would have told him initially, hey, you're going to redshirt? They'd have been mad.
I mean, some people were mad that they didn't play more anyway.
Go ahead, Schaefer.
I think you just have to, you're going to have to weigh the situations. But I think, like I said, if it's a coin flip, just play him the 5-6 games. You get as much value out of the player as you can in that season, and then you're going to see where the chips are going to fall when the portal comes around. I mean, that's a really tough part about all of this. Now, the conversation can change again once we get into contracts, and I'm wondering if there could be stipulations in there. I'm wondering if you basically, if someone red shirts, if there's a way that you reward them for that red shirt, and then that you're going to guarantee that they end up sticking around. If they play X amount of years, they trigger a bonus of some sort. Like, there's ways that you can be creative about this once contracts are actually introduced to how all of this works. But for right now, in the wild, wild west of anyone who's going to do anything, including float going into the portal, actually go into the portal, claim they're going to go in but never then do the paperwork. Like, there's all sorts of different ways that, people can manipulate things right now. I'm just thinking, if Nebraska's going forward in the 2025 class with the guys that they just signed, I think there probably needs to be the frank, honest discussion at the front end of it. Hey, we're not planning on any red shirts. We'll see how things go, because I just don't think that you're going to be able to maximize it. I mean, of the 20 guys that signed last Wednesday, how many do we think are still going to be on Nebraska's roster when we're having this conversation in December 10th of 2025? Like, I would submit to you that it's probably going to be less than 15, just the way this works.
Hey, listen, so, Schaefer, with all these guys, right? I mean, Iowa's got a top shelf safety. Well, I don't know how good Iowa's got a guy in the portal. Ryan Williams is in the portal. Like, these guys are in the portaling, right? Playing the fiscal game. Sometimes it's not always because they are unhappy. Is that further reason to just shoot your shot, kind of like what you're saying, or is it reason to make sure you know what you're dealing with if you're going to lose them anyway?
I think you're basically going to try to get as good of a read on a personality as you can. There's just no way to know.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
If you would have asked any of us at the beginning of November if we thought Emmett Johnson would go into the portal because he was going to derive more value by the end of the month, I don't think any of us would have guessed that. Like, it just takes a couple games for someone to change their outlook or who they are as a player. I mean, look at the teams that are recruiting James Williams. Look at how we view – I thought James Williams was a really nice player, but to somebody like Ohio State, he is the perfect complementary piece to add to your defense, whereas at Nebraska, you probably need him to be a little bit more – it's just we're getting into the kind of the baseball mentality of it. The rich are going to be able to go get the perfect setup man, while other teams just have to hope that everything goes perfectly for them to be able to compete at the same level. Like, it's just the unique open market setup of this changes, I think, the dynamics of how you run a program. And I think, one, Nebraska is positioned in a better way than some because Matt Rule has spent time in the NFL. And two, you have to adjust. This isn't the same college football world that he left, and he knows that. And I think he's been pretty open about that.
Yep, yes, I agree.
We're talking with Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Schaefer, I do. So I guess here's the problem I sort of have with the argument is I think you're right. I think there's going to be the rich get richer, and that there's a certain way those teams are going to run their programs. But there's also always been teams that operated differently that have a high level of success. I mean, do you think those teams just will cease to exist? I guess I don't understand that part, because if we're using the baseball analogy, Tampa still has made a couple World Series doing things dramatically differently than everybody else on the planet.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to figure out what the market inefficiency is that you're going to exploit. And that's going to have to be the thing that Nebraska has to figure out, or these other programs have to figure out. And I think Nebraska is in a better position than some, but they have to still go win games and develop the reputation of being somewhere that people want to go. But as we get further into this, I think you're going to see teams take different strategies to try to – you're going to probably see some teams who try the Indiana thing of you just load up on players from a good FCS program and you try to maximize those results. I mean, you're going to see some teams that only want to take guys that come from – the bread and butter blue blood programs from the Southeast. Like, you're just going to see these different strategies emerge. as to how people are going to try to combat the realities of the financial disparity that's going to exist in this system.
Schaefer, as you look at specifically the transfer portal guys for Nebraska, I know the Emmett Johnson situation was kind of strange. He's in and he's out before the portal even actually ever opens up. Has there been a name that has just flat out surprised you yet at this point?
I mean, they all have enough context to them that no, there's not been one where I've just been completely surprised. I mean, I think, like, I have my own curiosity as to the decision that Daniel Kaelin made before clarity was reached with Dylan Raiola, and I know that some people are going to find that statement odd, but I'll just leave it as to what it is. And then Keona Davis is the one where it's like, okay, was he that attached to Terrence Knighton and Tony White, or is it he didn't have the recruitment play out exactly how he wanted last year because he got re-recruited twice leaving the Washington program? Is he looking for something else? Because that's a guy where it's like, I don't know that Nebraska could have done a single thing differently and kept him. You know, so that's probably the one guy where I'm like, all right, that one maybe I wasn't prepared for, because it seems like you did everything you could. You made him feel like he was going to be a big part of this. And is it just as simple as he doesn't have a defensive line coach right now? So that Keona Davis is probably the one at this point. Everything else, I think you can kind of rationalize.
Yeah. So and that's interesting too, Shape, because like Davis's parents just got to Lincoln, so it's I don't. That one is definitely interesting because I don't know.
Well, you would know better than I would, but I had never heard any unhappiness.
Listen, I was caught off guard. Like when I tell you his parents were in Lincoln, they were in Lincoln. Like looking at spots, like I don't know, but that wouldn't be a situation that I was surprised, where you just need to come to a level of understanding because you feel like you're operating in uncertainty, right? So if that's the case, it may just be a sit-down, because that's really all Emmett was. That's why I didn't panic over Emmett, Shafe, just because for him it's not about money. Like, he just wants to know that he's worth something to you in terms of what you may think his value is, right? We saw his family members say relationships over money, right? Like, he wasn't going to be a high-maintenance guy. He just wanted to know where he stood, and it was like that from the jump. So I don't know if – oh, Keona will be interesting. Very interesting. Wouldn't surprise me if he came back.
You're going to have players that, maybe every year it makes sense for them to just enter the portal to see kind of what the relationship is financially, or what their role is going to be, or what it is. We're just in such a unique, area right now in college football where I think we're sort of between what's coming and what has been, and it's just kind of this massive gray area where people are going to have to make that decision for themselves.
Shafe, do you think it's kind of like in the NBA where people will enter the NBA draft 2 or 3 times knowing they're not going to get drafted, at least the first couple, but they go through the process, they go through the workouts, they get feedback, and then they hop back to their is that sort of the new, what you're describing with that? They'll just hop in the transfer portal every year and see what their market is?
I think that's a real possibility. I really do. I mean, I think some of it is just to go gauge where the interest would be, what the opportunity would be, what financially it looks like. I mean, I don't think I'm surprising anyone when I say this, but if you're looking to get a raise, usually the best way to get a raise is to have someone else want to hire you away from where you're at. So, a lot of people don't just give raises because you're performing well. And some do, obviously, but sometimes you have to push the issue by appearing like you're going to leave, and I could see that as a real strategy. A lot of assistant coaches have made a ton of money doing that. Some that I am very familiar with that coached at Nebraska because they knew exactly what they were doing while doing it. So it's not just the athletes that are thinking that way.
That's Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Schaefer, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Appreciate you, Mike J.
All right, guys, have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for showering, Schaefer.
It's a lot in there.
There is a lot in there. Good stuff from Schaefer, as always. Got a little philosophical on our approach to college football there, but I enjoy those conversations with Schaefer. Good guy, smart guy, even though he's not from Millard North. That's okay. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, except for you probably can't hear us on those places. We're also on KFOR in Lincoln. You can see our bright and shining faces, though, and DB's cool Nebraska Omaha wrestling sweatshirt. And you can also see us as we talk about Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets.
How about the guys hitting the portal?
What about the guys hitting the portal?
How much do you think Ryan Williams is going to get paid? And weird. Guess where his destinations are? Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee.
It's shocking.
It's incredible.
I mean, I have no frame of reference.
How about Quarry? Quarry.
I'm sorry?
Iowa.
Oh.
DB.
I have no idea what he's going to get paid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no frame of reference for what the actual money is here.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, guys that hit the portal.
For sure. But I still like
Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold isn't going to have a better situation than what he has right now in Oklahoma.
No, but if it is about relationships, maybe he likes Jeff Lebby about.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point.
But then he does have a better situation because the relationship's better. He may not make more money.
Not always about money.
Right. That's fair. I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I know some people do. And for some guys, it probably is about money, to be fair. Right? Like, there's guys out there that are just trying to get paid.
Yes, Ravi, yes.
And I don't blame them either. You know, it might be a little short-sighted for some of them, but I also understand.
I mean, it's just going to be like this.
Yeah, I also understand for some of these guys, it's the biggest potential for revenue in their entire life. Some of these guys aren't going to play in the NFL, or if they do, they're not going to have second contracts or whatever. This is the most money they're ever going to make in their life, most likely. Yeah. And I'm not going to begrudge guys for taking advantage of that. I'm just not going to. When it happens in Nebraska, it kind of sucks, but like I get it. You know, if James William and maybe, you know, whether his is about money or not, that's kind of irrelevant to the situation. But if James Williams is in the portal and somebody's like, hey, yeah, we'll pay you $1 million, and Nebraska's like, we can't pay you $1 million, or we don't value you at that same number or whatever, right?
You're making that number up.
Yes, these are just easy round numbers. Nebraska says $500,000. Florida State says $1 million. Like, if I'm James Williams, I kind of get it. I do. Irrelevant of the, you know, I've got a relationship with the new D-line coach at Florida State or wherever, right? I do understand for some of these guys.
I like that, young Ravi.
And if that's the decision they're making, okay, I'm fine with that. As long as they know what decision they're making and understanding, like, the grass may not be greener in every other way, but the green is greener.
So, to Schaef's point, do you go back and just recruit a guy for 1 year if you know, like, it's going to happen like Ryan Williams?
If I know
because you're not passing on this year, but it didn't get you anything.
No, you didn't get. It got you nothing at all. Some cool highlights, which is great, but
I mean, it didn't even get you the college football playoffs.
In the grand scheme of things, it got you nothing. But you probably take that chance. We see this in the NBA all the time, right?
Yes, Ravi.
If the Cleveland Cavaliers are a really good a really good example of this, right? Everybody, when they traded for Donovan Mitchell, they go, well, is Cleveland going to win an NBA title with Donovan Mitchell? No. Does it make them a dramatically better team? Yes. So what's that worth? Like, what if you're not getting the ultimate goal? Is that worth anything at Alabama? Is that worth anything in Cleveland? Is that, you know? And I don't know the answer. That's an internal question. If I'm an outsider looking in, I'm like, hey, Cleveland's kind of a fun, good basketball team. I don't know if they can win a title, but it's got to be more fun to be a Cleveland Cavalier fan today than it was before they got Donovan Mitchell, right?
Right.
So that matters on some level. I don't know if that matters to Alabama fans.
Yeah, I mean.
I don't know if that matters to Iowa fans if they're losing a safety.
And Williams is already getting it on social media, so we'll see if he stays in the portal.
I don't know if that matters to Missouri fans if they've got a 5-star edge rusher that's coming out.
I get it.
Does that matter to them?
The whole Mosey factor.
Just mosey on over.
I see what you guys are trying to do.
You know what I mean? No, like I think it depends on each individual fan base and the things that matter to them. I would imagine if you're Alabama, you're like, okay, if good riddance, you brought us nothing. What's the thing you like to say? We didn't win with you. We can lose without you.
Yeah.
We can miss the college football playoff without.
But that's how I am, though.
No, I get it. But if you're an Alabama fan, you sit there and go, I mean, we can miss the college football playoff without you.
I wonder what he decides to do. Because they can match anything.
100%. Maybe he doesn't like Kalen DeBoer. I don't know.
There's some good players leaving Alabama.
And you had this weird thing last year where a bunch of guys left and some of them came back. And like it's been weird dynamics with the roster transitions with DeBoer.
I wonder if good people can win out.
Just the better humans.
Yeah.
Maybe. That was kind of my argument to Schaefer.
No, I was captivated listening to that.
I thought you'd like the Vanderbilt example.
I'm listening full well.
Because I would like
I know
I would like that to matter. I personally, if I'm being honest, I would like that to matter. I would like it to matter that being a good person gets you ahead.
Let me give you a hypothetical.
Or at least gives you a chance.
Let me give you a hypothetical.
All right.
God, do I do this? No, I better not.
I mean, you already started.
No. I was going to give you the conversation between Butler and Caleb, but I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I did not.
No, that's okay. I mean,
because so to your point, relationships do matter. But to Schaef's point, you have to know
the kind of person you're dealing with.
Your audience.
100%. Because
I'm listening to the back and forth, and I was like, ooh, yep, I like Schaef's example. That's Caleb. And I was like, ooh, I like your example because that's Emmett Johnson, right? So it's like,
I think relationships.
It's just one of those things where it's not that I know too much. It's just that
you have a lot of information.
Yeah, and I think both you guys, I could see it.
That's why I asked him about alternative methods, right? Because he's right. Certain programs are going to operate that way. And they're probably
because I do believe if you redshirt Carter Nelson, they can be mad all they want about the number of games. If they're mad, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But if they just said you're redshirting,
they'd have been mad about that too.
Yeah. But then you'd have gone somewhere where you weren't going to play anyway.
Right.
At least in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, especially, I mean, it's a big transition.
So people they lose their minds over Malachi Coleman.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah. 100%.
See.
Here's my question about a guy like Malachi Coleman or a guy like Carter Nelson, right? Nebraska obviously.
Those other schools, they're not playing you guys.
Well, so that's kind of my point. Nebraska obviously needed some help in those positions, right? They needed help at wide receiver, at tight end, wherever. Like Nebraska's offense needed some help. They need some playmakers. Nair was struggling at points during the year. Banks was struggling at points during the year. Those are guys that, don't you think, if they were good enough to help in those situations, they'd be on the field?
Yeah. Listen, you ain't got to tell me.
And, not to be disrespectful, Nebraska's 6-6. If Nebraska's coaching staff didn't think they were good enough,
they would do what they had to do to not be 6-6.
Well, right. But also, if they didn't think they were good enough to help out a 6-6 team, you think they're good enough to go help a college football playoff team.
Don't worry.
I struggle with the logic there.
So the downside of that for me is I don't want to see kids stuck, but sometimes you get what you ask for. You want to go to Pete or finish the segment?
Let's finish the segment. Pete, hold on. We do have time in the next segment to take your call here. But we can't – logical consistency is sorely lacking in a lot of these conversations.
Does this have anything to do with self-awareness?
100% has to do with self-awareness. Okay. Because you have to understand some of the things that we're talking about are emotional, and some of the things we're talking about we're trying to be logical. But it's hard to be logical about things where we carry a lot of emotion. And so we'll sit here on one side and say, oh, man, it's devastating to lose Tony White, and it's devastating to lose Terrence Knighton.
I don't get like that.
I know you don't, but a lot of the fan base does.
Like somebody just asked me a couple minutes, is Rule screwing this thing up? This doesn't move my needle.
None of this has.
It doesn't move my needle one bit. None of it.
And to my point is,
I'm a big what's supposed to happen will happen.
And to my point with the people kind of getting upset about Knighton or or about White or whoever, right? You can't at the same time think the sky is falling that those guys are gone and then question the judgment of what they did while they were here. Either it's a big deal that they're gone or it's not. And if it's a big deal that they're gone, it's because they did well here. So if they were doing well here, then why don't you trust the decisions that were made while they were here? Yeah. Like, if you're mad about Terrence Knighton leaving, how can you still be mad that Riley Van Poppel redshirted? Right? How can you be mad about how Keona Davis was handled?
That makes sense.
You know, it makes a little bit of sense, right?
We just totally blew through the bet on it segment because you went on a rant.
I'm going to bet that relationships matter at the end of the day.
I got more winners, man. If you want Indiana.
We will get some winners.
Which cash. Give your boy some love.
We will get some winners in the next segment, and we'll talk to Pete. But that's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We apologize for the StreamYard issues today. That is a nationwide issue with their platform, though. Not that makes you feel any better, but if it had been our issue, I'm sure Shane would have shot off a text to Sasha by now and said, hey, Sasha, can you come down here? And gotten it figured out. But it's not an us problem.
Shane.
It's not us, it's
Sasha,
you.
The same person he would text if he was going to walk over a dead body.
Both of our dead bodies.
Yep.
You just be like, Sasha, come
men down.
Come get these guys.
Can you come here, please?
I would probably walk around.
I'm going to go outside and vape.
I wouldn't walk over.
Be right there, Shane. She'd whip that pickup truck in here 90 mile an hour, park that thing square.
Let's get to Pete here before you start giving out winners. Pete wants to talk a little bit about coaching. Pete, what's going on, bud?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pete, what's up?
Pretty good. I want to get your opinion. Do you think maybe as this goes on a little bit, we'll start seeing a curb to coaches' salary?
Yes.
A lot of these universities are going to be kind of financially strained, and if you're paying somebody $8 to $10 million a year to be a head coach, why not go back to a $2 million head coach and save the $8 million to pay on players?
Interesting. So there's going to be a whole the market will pay the whole bear thing. That's going to be an issue, but it's going to take somebody different. Shane, what'd I tell you about that? It's going to take somebody different that knows just X's and O's to do this job in addition to.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
It's like, how much are you paying, quote unquote, a CEO that can hire good assistants versus
a guy that can do it all himself?
A guy, yeah.
Because I frankly, and we've talked about this before, I don't think there's that many guys that can do it all themselves. Especially
it's just getting away from it's just
especially
hard.
The bigger the job gets.
I mean, how many times have we talked about GMs this morning?
We're also talking about there's a bunch of varied skill sets that are now required to be a good head football coach.
Yeah. That
it's just not realistic to expect one guy to possess all those. And so maybe your best case scenario is he possesses, we've been talking a lot about baseball and stuff this morning. Like, you're not going to have very many 5-tool coaches, right, that can do all of the things that are required. But maybe you find a 3-tool coach that's self-aware enough to know what the tools he's missing are and can hire for those guys. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of the best case scenario you're looking for here.
Oh, Ravi.
What's up?
I don't know.
I like baseball. Sometimes I give baseball analogies.
I love baseball.
I know, you're a big baseball guy.
I am a huge baseball guy.
I'm a big Moneyball guy.
No, I'm not a Moneyball guy.
I like Moneyball.
I think you should beat it.
I like the movie.
Yeah.
Good movie. Brad Pitt.
It's an okay movie. Not a big Brad Pitt guy.
Not a big Jonah Hill guy?
I do like Jonah Hill. I do believe he has a shelf life.
Why is that? What do you mean shelf life?
No, there's this, reach a point of diminishing returns where it's just not worth it.
Like, he can only be so in a movie so much?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you meant like his career's over.
What does shelf life mean to you?
Well, shelf life means how long is he going to last?
No, in my head, in terms of me having an affinity for him.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Thank you.
That's why I asked for clarification.
I like it.
You got some winners for me?
Yes.
What do we got for winners today?
I don't know. Yes, I think I do have winners. I always have winners.
You got Indiana yesterday.
Yeah.
Which was dumb, by the way. Like, it's dumb.
I got nothing.
At some point, Shane, you're going to have to get my back. You can't sit there like a goddamn bump on a log.
I tried that earlier, and it didn't work.
I don't think
Indian in the cupboard was not getting my back.
No, Newsflash. He was just trying to be more offensive than you so that he could have you covered.
Was I offensive?
I didn't really find it offensive.
Okay.
I did find it ridiculous.
I'm not going to get back on this, but I said, do you understand anything that he was saying? I didn't ask for a literal translation. I said anything. And you go, yeah, I got tandoori and Barini. Okay. That didn't warrant a goddamn African comment. Just saying.
Apparently it did, because Wyatt gave us Shanho Park, and Kim was like, what do I got to understand now?
That's just because they ride with you. That's what it was. Like, they just pick. You saw this in all its glory the other day. For whatever the reason, people just, like, giving me a hard time. They just ride with you. It wasn't because you were any less offensive.
No, I chose the analogy that I felt was equally offensive.
And you thought about it.
I did, yeah. I took a beat.
I gave you the TikTok ahead of time so you could look at it.
Yeah.
It was a softball, and you murdered me.
I still don't understand. I mean, sometimes that softball comes up back the middle pretty fast.
It's like, why would you just choose to run me over? That wasn't my heart.
I know you weren't doing it to purposely be offensive.
But you were.
No, I was doing it because I thought it was funny, and I thought we had a relationship that could handle it. I clearly was wrong.
I did. Guys, you know when I ran out to the car? I was actually looking for. I needed something for my headache because I had laughed so much it was hurting me.
I told you I have Tylenol. I wasn't kidding.
I don't think I can take Tylenol. Isn't that an acetaminophen?
Yeah. Can you not take acetaminophen?
That's a thinner, right?
No. Ibuprofen's a thinner.
Oh, I get it.
NSAIDs are thinner. So they're NSAIDs, it's a category of drugs. They're anti-inflammatories. So like Advil's ibuprofen, but aspirin is the one that's the
I don't need thinners.
blood thinner.
Have you not seen Sky take my blood?
No, I understand that.
Yeah, I'm a faucet.
But aspirin is the blood thinner. Acetaminophen isn't a blood thinner.
Okay.
So if you need some, I got you. Look at me.
You haven't been funny in 2 hours, so I haven't laughed.
I got your back. Unlike Shane.
Yeah, he sucks.
No, see, and an important thing to know about me is as mean as I can be, which is very.
You're going to offer me aspirin?
No, because that's a blood thinner. I wouldn't do that to you.
I would say something, but
you do. You do.
Totally screwed it up earlier. So
it's never as mean as it is. It's never coming from a mean place.
Of course, that's what all mean people say.
No, that's not true.
Except for the Grinch.
Well, I think the Grinch.
He's intentional.
The Grinch had some points, but.
Hey, man, why not steal all those gifts? Man, I can kind of see where you're coming from.
Well, listen.
Take the whole town's gifts.
He's a little bit.
What good point did the Grinch make?
Hold on.
he was a hoarder.
He's a little bit. I mean,
Was he not?
Did you see his mountain house? Like he keeps a lot of junk. No, he's a little bit like Thanos. Like Thanos made some good points. I'm not saying he acted on those points correctly. But Thanos had some points. The Grinch has some points.
Wow.
I'd like to see him deal with his emotions better.
Anyway.
I don't know anybody else like that. But as mean as I can be, I actually don't mean it in a hurtful way. I do miss on that sometimes, admittedly.
You're like, he can take it.
But it doesn't come from a bad place. Like, I'm not actively trying.
It's whatever, man.
I'm not actively trying to hurt you.
It's whatever.
That's, I think that's important to say.
It's whatever.
I think I failed. But
miserably.
I still don't understand why you.
OMG.
I still don't understand why you took Indiana last night. I know, I saw that.
Dude, Denny's crazy.
He's nuts.
Yeah, I took Indiana because the number was bad.
Yeah, Indiana sucks, though.
Yeah. All right, and that was a no-doubter.
The number sucked even more.
It was a no-doubter.
So what do we got tonight?
You should be like, cha-ching, I just keep getting paid. I wouldn't need a side job if I took my own advice.
I didn't bet on Indiana because I could never. I will never bet on Mike Woodson to do anything good.
Yeah.
Ever.
I'll give you.
What do we got tonight?
Take Rutgers.
Rutgers minus the 2.5 at home against Penn State, coming off a big win.
Prefer the money line, but if you don't like juice, Rutgers will be fine.
Penn State made you a little bit of money this weekend.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing watching Penn State.
Well,
and I do think, even though I just told you yesterday I'm not in love with Ace Bailey and Harper, they're getting better.
Yeah.
So don't let the 5-4 fool you. I like Rutgers.
Tough place to play.
Yeah.
In Piscataway.
I like Illinois.
Illinois as a -6.5 over
I think they give
Wisconsin.
it to Wisconsin.
Not a big Wisconsin guy?
I think, I just watch them.
Yeah.
Little bit of an illusion.
A little fraudulent.
And, I like Illinois.
Yeah.
I think Illinois is better than
people think.
We think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So I would lay the 6.5. And I also, you normally don't get 3 for your pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Although you did on Friday into Saturday, and you killed all those.
I really like Arkansas as well.
Ooh, what's the Arkansas number?
Catching 4.5.
They're +4.5 in New York in the Jimmy V Classic.
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden.
All right, they'll mess around and win that game outright.
You think so?
Yeah.
You want the money line or you want the
4.5
points?
gift.
You want the money line or you taking the points?
No, because I said that the other day, and one of my JB got greedy. He took the Packers on a money line.
And
too.
it bit you? And it bit him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that
was a bonus. I think he parlayed your plays, and then he added the Packers money line as a bonus.
But guess what?
What?
My other guy that I've been talking about that had the ridiculous
The
number,
Detroit Mercy guy?
He did it again. He's just laughing now.
Yeah. I'm telling you, you got to start charging a finder's fee.
Hey, yeah, he's just chuckling.
Be like, hey.
The Jayville State was just like.
I need a commish. Yeah, that was free money.
Yeah.
And by the way, Travis says avoiding people. And
Travis R. or Travis S?
Travis S. says
He's
avoiding
been on me
people
today.
and only wanting to hang out with his dog. The Grinch is 100% right.
Like, just to be fair, like just hanging out at my house with my dogs is like not the worst.
I'm a total homebody. Yeah. Everybody's like, "Oh man, you're flying out with those guys," and I'm like, 5 days in New York City. I'm a homebody. That's about 3 too many.
Yeah, if I have to be away from my dogs for 5 days, I'm not going to be real happy.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
So lock it up, man.
Lock up.
Arkansas, Rutgers.
And Illinois. There you go. There are DB's winners. That's some actual bet on it. Warhorse got a little bonus because we didn't really get to anything in the segment there.
But what if Pete's right though? You pay a coach $2 million, and you let him pay his assistants $2 million, and you pay the rest of your staff $2 million, and then you're like, figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's the market inefficiency.
The Moneyball version of hiring coaches.
Yeah, because there's going to be something.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it has to correct.
Not everybody's going to play the same way,
especially with these crazy buyouts.
100%. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back tomorrow, probably.